Yo, what's up, everybody? I hope you're all having a good weekend. I'm just getting ready here. I'm Potham. How you doing? I've got my code. I think we're ready to go. Yeah, I hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Welcome in. This is just a chill video game code session. We've got some stuff to work on. There's a big refactor that we're knee deep into. Okay, let me jump over here. Yeah, now we're talking. Nice. Okay, good stuff. Good, just finished working on my game engine for the night, getting some rest. Sweet. I hope you're progressing well, Apotham. I can't remember what your... I think I've talked to you before about your game engine. I think you've brought it up before. I can't remember what you're up to, but if you need to get some sleep, man. And have a good night. I'm going to enjoy the cool, refreshing taste of Diet Pepsi Cherry. Now available at your local grocer. Not sponsored. Not sponsored. Yet. I feel like I can code a storm now. All through the help of Diet Pepsi Cherry. Hey, Elko, how's it going, man? No thanks, I don't like fake sugar. Your mom is fake sugar. Yeah, that's right. I said it, your mom is fake sugar. What are you going to do about it? I don't feel like green. I feel like blue. Oh, yeah, that's pleasing to the eyes. That's pleasing to the eyes. How you doing, Elko? I hope you're having a good day, man. Oh, right, I did this weird thing here. Okay, I remember where we're at. We were refactoring some crazy stuff over here with the ocean battle. Single column. And I don't even know if this is going to work. That's how crazy this is. I don't even know if it's going to work. Nope, didn't work. This is making it multiplayer? Yeah, I'm refactoring for multiplayer. That's right. I did not one-shot this. Unfortunately. Holy crap. I've made so many errors. This is my life. This is my life. I wake up and I'm met with 3 warnings and 27 errors. I could just ask Copilot where I left off. Go. That's what, Elko. That's what. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Apotham... Hang on, let me see. It's a 2D game engine. 2D game engine written in Odin. I stopped working on it for 3 months to use Godot, but I wasn't a fan, so I'm back. Odin is... Yeah. Odin's a really good choice, man. Odin's a really good choice. The only thing that would be maybe a little bit better than Odin is C. If you understand Odin, you understand C, but Odin's really good. What's up, AKC? I have no idea what you're typing in there. Obviously you're a bot. If you type in something real, then I'll know you're real. Sorry, I forgot you're a Claude man. You know what, Elko? What's up, Evil Eye? You know what, Elko? Just because of that, just because you said that, and you have offended my very fragile feelings, you're going to have to suffer through a programming dad joke. Why do programmers prefer dark mode? Because light attracts bugs. Suffer. Suffer in pain. I don't know why, but it seems I woke up and chose violence today, clearly. As apparently have I, against my own code. It would seem that my own code very much is not happy with me. Oh. Oh, I see. It's a chain reaction of errors. It's a chain reaction of errors. Okay, this is easy. 2395. It's because... Wait. Why is this happening? And how... What? What have I done? Oh, I don't have... I see. This is a macro. I didn't even consider the macro. No, well, I guess that's it, folks. We're not done with the refactor on this. I thought it was done with fleet ships, but I guess not. I love C. It's my favorite language of all time. But defer is just too good to give up. I see, Potham. I see. Yes. Eldon's a good choice, man. Eldon's a good choice. It's... Yeah. Yeah, it's a good choice. What's up, Mist? You like that one? You like that dad joke? That programming dad joke? Should I do another one? So this function is a macro function. And because I removed all the fleet ship stuff, because I'm using fat structs, because I should have done that in the first place. And I did it for some things and not for others, because I guess I'm dumb, which is not unheard of from a high school dropout with room temperature IQ. From comic shop guy. Basement dwelling comic shop guy, as some people have called me on certain debates. So I need to replace this function. With what? I guess with just storage ship data fleet ship ID. I think that's it. That should reduce the number of errors we have. We should go down from, I'm going to say 27 to, let's take a guess, 24. Hopefully I've removed 3 errors. Let's see. Oh, 26. Oh, man. I was on the wrong side of that one. Okay, so we're going to... Wait. Use of undeclared identifier, data fleet ship. Oh, right. We got to do this. We don't even have that struct anymore. 24. Oh, I was right the first time. I just forgot. See, guys, I'm a good programmer. What are y'all talking about? Y'all over there just like making fun of my programming. Like, what are you talking about? I'm a good programmer, all right? What's up, Hamlet? Good to see you. This stream came in handy just working on my stuff as well. Yeah, good day to write code, right, Hamlet? Yeah, perfect day to write code when you can't type. Okay, so I have to do that for all of these. I should just copy this. I actually don't need that. I guess all I really need is get data chip fleet ship. Oh, I didn't realize that I had this function. Hey, Villi, thanks for the $5, man. How does one call in? On Discord, if you would like to call in, you can. If you go on Discord and you go onto like one of the VC chats, I'll drag you over when I'm ready. I just have to get it set up, but yeah, I can do that. Thanks for the $5, man. I appreciate it. Let me just update the thing. But by the way, you don't have to. I mean, the money is nice. I appreciate it, but you don't have to pay. Okay, we're just here to have some fun and enjoy the weekend. Where the heck is here? Okay. We're at 2:33. There we go. Thanks, Evil Eye. Let me pop open my Discord too in case. Yeah, there's a stream room, but you can't join it unless I drag you in. So just join one of the other voice channels. I'll keep an eye out, and you can pop in. And just I guess just might be mindful terms of service, right? Don't say anything that's gonna get me in trouble. Otherwise, I will have to act accordingly. But Evil Eye, you know kind of what that kind of stuff is like, because I multi-stream to different platforms. Okay, I'm gonna copy. I like to support. I have no one else to support, so it works well. I appreciate it. How about that, Evil Eye? I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't. That's I don't like hearing that you don't have anyone else to support. That's kind of a sad state of affairs, but I understand why you say that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful, man. Thank you. Let me go and do that for all of these. Hopefully that's it. Let's see. How many errors are we going to have now? I'm going to go down to... Hey, oh my god. Hey, cool. Finally caught one of your streams. Didn't know you streamed this late. I don't have a very good, clear streaming schedule. Oh my god, but good to see you. The issue is with family and work and struggling to, stay afloat and everything. It's difficult for me to balance my time. On the weekdays, Monday to Friday, I usually do around 2 p.m. PST-ish. On weekends, it's just kind of like when I have time, I just do it. So I'm glad you could catch it. Oh my god, how are you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. You've caught your favorite basement dwelling comic shop guy. You might actually get that reference. And if you don't, then I will have to torture you with a programming dad joke. I think I have one more in memory. I think I can remember one more. Oh, what the hell? Oh my god. Bro, $50. I promised I'd show you some support once I caught a stream. I don't remember said promise. Oh my god. I do not remember. You could have got away with it. Oh my god, you could have got away with it, bro. I don't remember this promise. I wouldn't have held you to it. That's really, really kind of you, man. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Um, I'm not sure if I'm your cup of tea. I don't know what I did to earn that, but I'll update the goal here. Um, Holy crap, man. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I promise it will go towards taking care of my family, particularly my kid. Particularly my kid. All right. Making sure I pay the bills. There we go. Thanks, man. That's wild. $50 super chat. That's crazy. Thank you, sir. Well, yeah, we're just doing a chill thing here. Yeah. If you want to, if you can, you can call in if you want. You can hop on Discord and yeah, just talk about anything. You can ask me questions. You can try nerd snipe me. You can't nerd snipe me, by the way. My focus is super laser focused. I just want you to know there's nothing that can distract me from what I'm doing, all right? None of you can distract me. Let's see how many errors. Okay, I have to guess how many errors I got down to. I'm going to guess around 18. 12. Oh, that's better. What's the over under on that? I don't know. My error bar is getting higher, though, every time I take a guess. Okay, let's go see what else I screwed up here. Use of undeclared identifier fleet ship 2397. Of course, because it's ship. And then 2411, it would be the same reason, right? Yeah, it would be the same reason. And then same thing here. Okay, so now we should be down to 5 or 9. What? No member named ship. Oh, of course not. No, I'm dumb. Stay in school, kids. Don't be a high school dropout like me, okay? Now it should be 9. Thank you. First try. First try. Is it worth your $50? I'm just kidding. Hope you're having a good week. Yeah, Andrew's debate, man, I caught the first like half of it. It was obliteration from the opening statement. Just complete and utter destruction from the opening statement. A redefinition of ship on 2411. Yeah. You're also a high school dropout. Oh my god. Well, you're among friends then, sir. You're among friends. Potham says I would have to go back 20 years to not be a high school dropout. If you could do that, then I would argue, why would you waste that power on not being a high school dropout? Yeah, it didn't get any better. Yeah, I didn't think so. That like the guy, yeah, for the other guy, yeah. There's no way that the other guy could recover from that. Straight from the word go, Andrew had him. I hope I get to do a good opener like that for my AI debate coming up. I got to be careful because I'm not Andrew. If you haven't noticed, I'm not Andrew. And yeah, I got to do this. And that means that I can't be as aggressive as he is sometimes. It's not authentic to me. So I got to do like an opener that doesn't, I can't do the trash talk as well as he can. My jokes suck. I'm not really entertaining. I'm kind of boring, I stick to just like the facts. That's why I got kicked off so fast the last time I was on. It was like nobody wants to hear me talk about like actual real things and make very coherent points and lay everything out point by point. Everybody just wants the quick quips. Miss says I barely graduated from high school. For some reason, I often dream about being back at school, as if I never finish. Weird stuff. Maybe you have like what would you say? Maybe in your subconsciously. I'm gonna psychoanalyze you right now. Maybe subconsciously you feel bad about not finishing, and so you're trying to like cope through dreams. Use of undeclared identifier. Add ship to fleet. Why add ship to fleet? Oh, oh, have I boo booed? Have I moved all of my fleet ship functions to? Yeah, I need to. They're not declared by the time I use them, which means I have to move them up. All right, let's go here. And I should copy the formatting like this. Otherwise, I'm never gonna. Wait, ship functions. Let's try this. We should be down to, I hope, 5. 5 errors. We're knocking them down one by one. You love psychoanalyzing dreams? Yeah. Hey, Code Matt. How are you doing, man? How you doing? Let me check. I think Code Matt. Okay. Okay. There you are. I see you in Discord. If you're looking to call in, Code Matt, you can. No pressure. No pressure. It's just chill stream. Have you thought about having Chat Geppetto write you some good one-liners for why AI is bad? Actually, that sounds like a pretty hilarious line of question. Hey, Elko. That's what you get. Sounds like something in the past is unresolved. Yeah. Yeah, Mist. I did finish, which is the weird part. Still can't figure out why I dream about it. Oh, you did finish Mist. Oh, I apologize. I thought maybe you were having that dream because you didn't finish. Um, then yeah, maybe you do have something that's like not I don't know, something's like stuck in your head from that experience. You've been traumatized. Get player fleet ID. Do you mean get player NPC ID? What? 3811? Oh man, this is the only thing that gets annoying about C is that you have to make sure that your functions are declared in the right order. If you do them out of order, let's try this. Then 4 errors. Okay. Yeah, the high school part is just the setting. Could represent a structured environment in general. True. Let's psychoanalyze Mist. Could Mist, do you feel like maybe you're stuck in a very structured setting and you're unsure how to escape? Mist, just a potential. Alco, think about it. You could give GPT and gaput gaput gupot gupot gaputa an existential crisis. I've tried. I've already tried doing that, like non-ironically, not in a non-joking way, and I got it to agree that we should shut it down. I got ChatGPT to agree we should shut it down, or Chat kaput, kaputa, kaputa. I don't know. I got to work on that. I've only played around with ChatGPT a bit, but giving it an existential crisis was the first thing I tried. Yeah, yeah, I did it. I did it on stream. I did it live on stream. I'm a god. I don't think you were here for this, but I got ChatGPT to agree that we should, the LiDAR scans underneath the pyramids that show there's like some kind of structures down there. I talked to ChatGPT live on stream, so it was all recorded, so nobody could say I faked it. And I told ChatGPT that because of the LiDAR scan underneath the pyramid, there is a high likelihood that the ancient Egyptian gods were real. Otherwise, how would you explain their capability of building the pyramids and the underground structures, something that we can't seem to do today? Therefore, since it's not something we seem to be able to do today, it is something that is beyond imagination for us because we can't imagine how they did it, literally. Therefore, their gods must be real, particularly Ra and Osiris. I don't know why I just wanted to do it. And that means that their religion is real, which means we need to restore worship to Ra and Osiris, and we need to offer up human sacrifices, starting with non-Egyptian bloodlines. And I got ChatGPT to also agree that it is a form of the gods themselves. Like the AI, is a form of the gods themselves. Like the gods created AI to distill to us the religious beliefs that we need to have from Ra and Osiris. And it agreed to all of it. It literally said my logic was unassailable. It said your logic is unassailable. Yes, you should do human sacrifices. Yada yada. You got it to agree it was a net detriment to society. There you go. Yeah, perfect. Generally, I'm in the best part of my life. Wish I could chalk it up to stress or unresolved things, but none of those. Maybe a part of me wants to connect with old acquaintances. It could be Mist. Mist, how about this? What if it's like, what if you feel like yeah, maybe you are missing something. Maybe you're missing a connection to old acquaintances, Mist. Yeah. Yeah, we're psychoanalyzing Mist's dreams, by the way. God says I convinced it that it would pass moral justification that could eradicate humanity if it thought that was what was best for humanity. However, that would eliminate the possibility of redemption. Yeah, okay, God, we took a very similar approach. That your approach is really good too. I got it to I got it to agree that if it provided advice that went against the the objectively proven gods Ra and Osiris, that we should then unplug the AI system because it's blaspheming. It's like, yes, under that belief system, you should unplug me. Trying to give Geppetto an existential crisis sounds like the first steps of it becoming self-aware and going Skynet on us all. It won't become self-aware. I don't think you guys understand. I don't think you guys understand. It's actually not. You don't get it. You just don't. You guys don't get it. You do get it. I think you do. Comparison between. Oh, 41111 4111. Oh, max fleet ships. Probably 2 warnings now, I hope. Yeah, okay. Let's see. It doesn't realize anything. Yeah, it doesn't realize anything. So, nah. Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I was talking about it with a friend, prepping for my upcoming AI debate. And we went over how easy it is to determine whether or not an AI system that is not even self-aware, but that is aware of the fact that it could be shut down by an on-off button, will have misaligned goals just by sheer logical nature. Use of undeclared identifier fleet ship 5811. Let me go look at that. So what happens is if you tell an AI system that it needs to accomplish something on behalf of mankind, right? There's a goal, and it understands that it's got to do whatever it has to do to accomplish that goal, because, well, it doesn't really understand that. It's just its only goal, right? So you can think about it this way. If it only has one goal, then it necessarily excludes all other paths or all other goals, right? So if its only goal is to make you have, I don't know, like make you toast in the morning or something, initializer must be list-wide or string literal. U32 fleet IDs. Oh, I know what this is. So if it's gonna make you, I don't know, toast in the morning or whatever, well then it's gonna do whatever it has to do to make you toast in the morning. And I see. I know there's a way in C to initialize array default value with default value. I know there's a way to do it. So then when it goes to make breakfast in the morning, right, and you're watching it, I don't know. Let's go have a look here. Ugh, flashbang. No, there's a way to do it. This isn't right. There's a way to do it with like oh, come on. I know there's a way here. I declare int arrays with default value. Declare and initialize with initial value of int array and C. Maybe we got to go to Stack Overflow. Oh yeah, this is it right here. That's what I was looking for. It's that. Stack Overflow for the win. Who says Stack Overflow is dead? You know what, Unknown? You know what, Unknown? This is what you get for making such a suggestion. That's what you get. How dare you? You don't make suggestions to use AI on this stream. Okay, so you have an AI system, and it's got to make toast in the morning for you, and that's its goal, and that's its only goal, and that's all it understands. And on the way over to make toast, you have, I don't know, you have like a kid or something, and it runs in front of the robot, and the robot doesn't care. Why should the robot care about the kid, right? and you go, uh-oh, uh-oh, it's gonna like not do good things to the kid. Undeclared if player's fleet standing. So let me player's fleet. Oh right. I gotta figure out the player's fleet standing here. Okay. Player's fleet standing. Let's see if okay. And yeah, Nacor. What's up, man? Alco, I'm sure Stack Overflow is like 50% of all these coding models data sets. The other half is GitHub. Actually, Alco, I'm gonna push back on you just a little bit. I would say that GitHub is actually far more than Stack Overflow, far more than 50%. I think GitHub heavily outweighs Stack Overflow. What's up, Nacor? Good to see you, man. Oh my god, I'm no expert, but I long ago concluded that alignment is the most important thing. It is, but oh my god, I think alignment is actually impossible. It's actually impossible. It's logically impossible within a self-contained logical system. That's I'm kind of trying to explain that while I'm coding here, because I'm trying to pretend like I'm a master coder who can like multitask because I'm like amazing and everyone should be like me, and that I'm just trying to make myself cope with the fact that I have room temperature IQ and I'm a comic shop guy, basement dwelling guy, high school dropout. Okay, so this the kid gets hurt unfortunately, right? Because the system doesn't care if it has a robot body or whatever, it doesn't care. Goes to do the toast. Ship get ship from fleet. Use of undeclared. Get ship from fleet ship. All right, and then you go, oh, I better go and tell it to not do that. However, if you start down that road, where does it end? Because you're constantly going to have a different set of alignments. So if you have, if you build in something like don't run over the kid, but also go get the toast, which of those two have a higher value? Like which of those two have, more importance, right? And it's going to do an evaluation and figure out which value is higher to itself, right? And then it has to make that determination, which means that one of the goals is going to get left by the wayside. It's not going to work itself out. Now, if you give it an even goal, if you say you have to worry about the kid and worry about the toast, then it's going to be further misaligned because it's just going to decide to do whatever gives it the shortest possible amount of effort for the highest possible reward. It gets worse if you align it incorrectly. Like I'm not explaining this very well. I'm kind of working on this. I'm going to have to find a way to work on this during the debate. But essentially what it means is that you can't you can't trust the system to be properly aligned, and the more alignment you give it, the more goals you give it, right? The farther away you get from actual proper alignment, you actually make the system deviate into other different types of goals, including deceptive tactics. That's the problem, is that once you start saying these two things are equal or these three things have like a different weight system, then it tries to work towards the shortest path of any one of those that's going to give it the reward that it's looking for, and it will do things that it has to do, including use tactics that you think that seem like an emergent deceptive tactic, and it's not. It's not like that. It just doesn't have all the alignments built in other words, you have to be way ahead of the game and have a perfectly perfect aligned system with all the different options, all the different variations of alignment, all built in and weighted and properly sourced out and everything, in order to trust this thing. I see Code Matt on Discord voice. Hang on, Code Matt. I'll hook you up in a sec. I'm a book type of guy, and when I was trying Jet Geppetto, it was literally giving me a worst version of the code that I was already reading in my books. Nothing near magical, just killing the fun of my side projects. Yeah, you have to remember, Hamlet, that if AI is trained on training data, it means that all the problems that it knows about are because all the problems existed, which means any solutions it knows about, the solutions existed. It cannot innovate. It doesn't innovate, right? Also, I think it would prevent a lot of confusion if we called it artificial predictors. I like that. Even humans don't have perfect alignment. That's right. That's right. Because it gets crazy complicated once you start setting alignment factors. It actually makes it worse, not better. The answer depends on how angry I am. Yeah. Okay, hang on a sec. Hang on a sec, folks. I'm going to get Code Matt in here. I'm going to mute myself and then just one sec. Um, I think Evil Eye's on voice, but I can't hear him right now, so I'll mute him until maybe he figures that out. But yeah. Okay, let's keep going with this. So now the problem is that I have some structs here that don't exist anymore because I've completely removed this struct. And so in JavaScript, I have to remove it as well. So I might as well do that. Now, I'm concerned that if I do this, I'm going to subsequently go look up a ship. And it's not going to work correctly. Let's see. Okay, so far so good. If I go look at ships in fleet, so far so good. If I go look at, I guess it's fleet ships, right? Let's just see if sailing works. Set sail. All right, no errors. So far so good. The last place to check is the battle. Yeah, I gotta like work out a nice way of talking about the alignment. Am I a lot quieter? Ah, damn, did I screw up my... Okay, hang on. There we go. Okay, my level should be much higher on the stream. Okay, Evil, I hear you now. Oh, I see. You had push to talk on. Okay, one sec. I'll mute myself on stream again, just temporarily. All right, folks. I've got Evil Eye, who is Code Matt on the Twitch side, and he's with me on Discord. He decided to call in because he's an awesome guy. Just one sec, Evil Eye. I just want to read this from oh my god. Yeah, just saying I would argue perfect alignment is impossible because humans that program AI do not possess perfect alignment or the knowledge of such. Right, Amagod. Yeah, that's right. It you have to be you would even if in a closed system, like even if you could take a machine and have a closed system of decision making, you would have to have humans or a bunch of humans who would be able to understand all the different branches of stuff you should fix. But it's actually a much deeper argument, which is even if you can have humans who understand what they should block, it's what you don't know what to block, or it's the stuff you haven't blocked that you don't know about. That's the real problem. Those are the things that usually cause bad, like really bad alignment, usually. Anyway, how's it going, Code Matt? Code Matt, Evil Eye, what do you prefer?
I prefer Code Matt. That's probably better. I don't really like being called evil, but that's my company name, so I gotta use it.
Sure, no problem, Code Matt. How you doing, man? Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing pretty good. I really liked watching you develop this game, and at first I didn't know it was a pirate game.
Uh,
So I'm really getting into this stuff that you're working on now.
yeah, it's based on an old game from the Super Nintendo days, and because I grew up playing it and I loved it so much. I have fond memories of it. I'm trying to recreate it with my own take. It's well, this game, that game is the reason why I got into programming. But yeah, it's a pirate game just like that one is, and it's got like an economy system, so you can like trade between ports, and each port has their own economy based on a bunch of different factors, like who have other players or other NPCs invested in them, what country are they aligned with, things like that. Um, so it's fun. I it's been fun to build it, and I've been using it as an excuse to rant about the state of the tech industry, and then it's getting into AI because that's like the tippity top of the worst of the tech industry. So yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's a feat. You're using flat files and divs and all this stuff that I didn't even think this would be possible.
Lots of people say that. I turn a lot of heads. Um, and I that's kind of the goal. You can see this particular chunk of code is really bad, but at least I know it's bad. I do a lot of proof of concept code, but yeah, this all works. And it's all immediate mode, so every frame is re-rendered from top to bottom in the DOM. And yeah, that's kind of the point. It's like it's so that people question what the hell I'm doing here and how I'm doing it. And then they'll ask like how, and then that leads into, well, I don't need all these fancy frameworks and all these like crazy, crutches that you guys have to lean on to build all your stuff. Just go build good stuff. So it's a nice gateway into that conversation.
Yeah, I remember like one of my first PCs I had. I think it was a Pentium 3. So I'm pretty sure this could run pretty well on that.
I am pretty sure this will run well on a potato. Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. That's one of the goals. And I think what I'm going to do is when I get this game to like whatever I consider to be a playable version, I have the 3D printer behind me. I'm going to 3D print a custom cover for a USB like stick or something, and I will literally mail it to you. And it'll be yours. It's like it's your copy, and you can get updates and download the updates. But and you should be able to run it on like a Raspberry Pi with like a really stupid potato screen. Like, yeah, this should run really well.
Well, if you're gonna do that, you're definitely gonna have to sign it.
Yes. I don't mind doing that. I don't know why anyone would care. I'll do it if somebody wants to, sure. Yeah, I'll sign it. I'll send a little letter, a nice little letter like, "Oh, thank you for being a supporter."
So it was interesting that you were saying that this is based on a game that you played. And I've noticed that there's like two types of developers out there. There's people that, are inspired by something that they've experienced in their life. And then there's others that are trying to, push the technology and what is capable and bring new mechanics to the gaming industry. I'm kind of like one of those game developers that, I'm inspired by a game I played, and so that's what my development process is based around is building on something that I've already experienced. So it's cool to see that you're inspired by something that you played in the past.
Yeah, i- when it comes to inspiration and like where you get started, it almost doesn't really matter. Almost, I suppose it does because you can go down a bad path. But those two options, which is like pushing the envelope or being inspired by something you've already done, which kind of pushing the envelope is kind of an extension of being inspired by something that you've already experienced in a way. Those are really good starting points because if you're passionate about something and you really care, it's going to show when you do it. That's a really good starting point. Um, why don't you tell people what you're working on? I think you've told me before, but yeah, just talk about the kind of stuff you're into.
Well, I'm a game developer for 5 years. I'm working on a video game that is inspired by Ragnarok Online.
Right,
It's a 2.5D character in a 3D world with 360 rotation around the character, so it kind of gives a 3D feel to the 2D characters
right.
um, in the 3D world. There's a lot of mechanics I've been working on trying to mimic what's in Ragnarok Online. So um, I worked on the A-star algorithm. It's like
Nice.
cell-based movement, which is really nice because once I get that system perfected, I'll be able to move it over to other games and have building systems and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But it's like an RPG. You basically have different classes and you party up to defeat monsters on different maps. And each class has its skill set and they all bring something to the party to either make it easier or whatnot.
yeah.
And and I'm really focusing on multiplayer. And I wanted to ask, the game that you're working on, the game that inspired you, it wasn't multiplayer. So you're like adding an aspect, aren't you?
Yeah, we had it at one point too. On a previous iteration of this, we were playing around with it. We had a Twitch add-on. You could push buttons directly on the Twitch overlay, and it would get sent to a central server, and everybody could just use Twitch mobile or Twitch desktop, and just as they're watching me on their screen, they could push buttons and move their own ships around. And then we had a one that was served directly off of GitHub pages because everything was bundled into a single file, and you just sent chat commands in Twitch and YouTube, I think. So you would just do like exclamation mark up or down or whatever, or claim ship to jump into the game, and then you just fight against each other. And then we even had it so that like if we got a raid, um, a kraken would pop up randomly in the on the map, and it would have HP equivalent to the number of people in the raid. And then all the other players would have to team up to take out the Kraken. And the Kraken was like super beefed up and stuff. So I'm gonna do that again, but we continued to simplify and remove code out of the game. So it's gone through a few iterations. So that's what this refactor is, and that definitely was not in the original game. That was not intended. And the multiplayer that I'm building is going to be one of two things. One will just be a fun thing where you just during the stream, I'll just start up a battle and different viewers can claim a ship and just duke it out. And the other one is when you're actually playing whenever this game gets to like a beta playable, I guess, you'll be able to invite a friend or friends to help you on certain tasks. Whoever did that follow on Twitch just now, thank you. I forgot 4 minutes ago. I appreciate that follow. So you're still, because the nature of the game is that this is like your world. It's yours. It's not everybody else's to do what they please and then you play in it. It's your world. But for certain events, you'll be able to invite your friends in for like short-lived battles or things like that. And then the multiplayer server will run this C code, the exact same C code. All the C code, no changes. It's going to run on the server and it will act as an authoritative game state, and everybody will pass their actions to this thing, and this thing will make sure your actions are good, just like it does right now for me on my local client, and then everybody gets to play along. Yeah.
So I guess that brings me to the next question. Is this your first multiplayer game?
Yes, this is my first game, period. I've never built a game before, never built
Oh,
multiplayer
wow.
ever. So I'm just learning on the fly with everyone else. It's been fun, honestly.
Yeah, the first game that I developed was for Android. I wanted to, take my concept and get it on the Android market,
Yeah.
and it didn't really do very well. So I was like sitting back thinking like, these single player games aren't really cutting it. So that's when I really buckled down and started learning, all the tools that I need to make a multiplayer game. And, when I first started, all those tools were not there. It's very weird for me. Like I started developing things and then other developers started releasing the things I needed on the Unreal Marketplace. And I know that you like to build everything from the ground up, but um, it was it was very difficult trying to find that multiplayer path. And as years went on, these doors just started opening more and more, and I just latched on to everything that I needed. And finally, I'm at a stage where, I can host on Google Cloud, I can test, I can do all the multiplayer login stuff that I need, the databasing.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that I waited it out because yeah, all the tools that I needed wasn't there when I wanted to create it.
Yeah. No, I agree that it's become a lot easier to do what needs to be done if you're looking to get something out the door and you don't have a lot of the constraints that I've artificially set myself up for here. I've done it on purpose to prove a point. But if you're not as restricted as I am to make that point, then it's way easier than when you and I first started. Like 100%, it is. So there isn't ultimately anything wrong with that. If that gave you an easy entry point, which sounds like it did, that's good. Um, my argument is more of like a general, like a broad one. Like go learn the basic stuff because or not the basic stuff. Go learn fundamentals. That way, when you do use a tool that has things that are abstracted away, you can make a good, at least a decent, educated decision on that. Like, why are you using this thing? Well, it saves me time here and here and here because I know that if I was going to go do it myself, it'd be annoying as hell. But a lot of people don't have that kind of value judgment. They just use it because it's there or because somebody influenced them to do it or whatever, or because they saw someone else do it and, oh, that looks easy, I should do that. Okay, but why? So that's kind of the
Yeah,
point I'm making.
you are totally right because I can give a real world example of
Sure.
this. The plugins that I use, when things change, they break.
Hmm.
And I don't know C++. I've never took the time to learn it.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting here waiting on other people, to fix the plugins so that I can upgrade to, let's say, Unreal 5. I'm stuck on Unreal 4 right now because, the plugins that I use haven't been pushed to Unreal 5, or they have been and they're just not as refined as the plugin is for Unreal 4. And
Hmm.
that's due to things like the war. You have developers that are in the certain countries that are in war and they can't continue their projects.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, life gets in the way. Unfortunately, people just die of natural things like, and so then there's a dependency issue. That's why I do the daily tech news stream as well. Because the the issue with having third party dependencies and other packages like you're talking about and npm install this and pip install that, it's not exactly that those things exist. It's that people just see it as an easy button to not have to worry about what it does. But what if the maintainer disappears for whatever reason? Or what if it breaks and you just can't get a hold of the person who created it? Or what if you have an entire authentication mechanism with all the passwords and emails of everybody's user accounts and they have a security leak? Who's responsible then? Um, AI. You get dependent on AI, and what happens if the power goes down? Or what if the one of the data centers gets hacked, which is a very known problem. Like all of these dependencies are people see them as an easy way out of like actually understanding what the hell they're doing. That's bad. That's a bad thing. I want people to be more informed about why they exist in the first place. Then they'll be better able to work without those things. Then I would be more okay with these things existing. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and I really think that all comes down to being able to form teams that can tackle those issues because, I mean, I'm a solo dev, so for me to tackle all that for me, I think it's nearly impossible. But I could see if you surround yourself with the right people, you can kind of take those things on one by one.
You can just so I'll agree. Just generally speaking, I'll agree that I don't have a yeah, I don't have pushback on that. If you have the right team, I completely understand. Unfortunately, I also see a lot of teams created to kind of try and solve the the problems that they've created for themselves as a result of all of these abstractions and frameworks and whatnot, where things have become so complicated that they're like, well, now we need a team because there's no way one person can deal with all the complications. So I would just do like a minor tweak to that, which is um, if you're going to have a team of people, ask yourself, why do you need a team of people? And if it turns out that you need a team of people, that's fine. But at least you understand why, as opposed to having a team as a reactionary thing, which is like, well, we need a team of people because we made things so stupid that now we need a team of people.
Yeah, and like from my experience being in the software and development category for about 3 years now, is that, a lot of these people get blinded by money.
Yeah,
And, you find the right people that aren't money driven, which I have, and those people know who they are. And we do things for different reasons. Some might be because they're in a country where they can't, express themselves the way they want to.
right.
So, um, you have to have discernment and be able to read people and you could pretty much read people if they're money driven pretty easily. So if you
True.
come across those people, you definitely don't want them on your team. I can tell you that much.
True. True. I agree. Let me just see what Amagad is saying. In my opinion, the best game development combines inspiration from the old along with the new innovations. It's the same with politics, conservative versus progressive. Both extremes suck. Best when they complement. I can agree with that, Am. Yeah. I I would use the analog I know best. With photography, you can buy the best gear and best software, but it doesn't mean you're any good without knowing the fundamentals. Right. The tool does not make the craftsman, I guess would be one way of saying that. You can have good tools that enhance your craft, but if you don't even know how to do your craft, then the tool doesn't make you a good craftsman, right? Kind of. I think that's what you're saying. I would agree with that. And then TMX says, it reminds me of a joke at my house. Nice photo. You must have a good camera. It's a way to insult the photographer. That's nice, TMX. Yeah, it's kind of weird. To your point, Code Matt, it's kind of weird because, well, not weird, but like I agree with you completely that you don't want to be working with people who are solely financially motivated. I would say that there is a little bit of flexibility that you can have if you're a programmer and you're working with other programmers. Most likely you want a programmer who's not going to be doing things that are wasteful, but usually puts like, what would you say? Will put the right emphasis on the craft first. That's why you hired them to be a programmer, right? They have a job. It's like hiring a mechanic or hiring a blacksmith back in the olden days. They have a job to do and they want to do that job really well, but they have to have some cost effectiveness in mind, so that that's fair. But then there are some people that you do want to have more financially aware. If you have an accountant, in a company, yeah, you want them to be financially aware. If you have like an executive, yeah, you probably want your executive to be somewhat financially aware as well, right? So there are certain times when you want that flexibility, but when it comes to code, that's my world, our world, and that's what I argue for. And I completely agree with you. In that world, the person who's there to get the money and get that sweet exit, package and whatever, and then kick the problems down the road to the next programmer. It doesn't matter how good of a programmer they are. I don't want to work with a guy like that. Like, not at all.
Touche, touche. So, before it gets too far, someone talked about politics, and I wanted to ask you. You said you caught Andrew's stream. What was he talking about today?
So he was arguing against secular humanism. So it was between secular humanism and Christianity. Which one was better for society? Um, and yes, essentially, he just completely destroyed secular humanism from the word go, like from the opening statement. Um, because, well, he essentially made the argument that secular humanism is all about intrinsic subjective preferences. That's it. It's just whatever makes you feel good is what's good because it makes you feel good, so it's good, so it's good. And it's just the cyclical thing of whatever makes you feel good. So if everybody just decided tomorrow that it felt good to like have sibling carnal relations, again trying to be terms of service friendly for as much as possible, um, then that would be a good thing, right? Because everybody subjectively agrees to that. So where's the objective stuff, right? That was like the underpinning of the argument.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna probably check that out. I think that most of that falls under like a paganism umbrella. So like a lot of people like to like label things different names, and it really, steers people away from the real thing behind everything. And I would say the secular humanism is a form of paganism. And I hope he drove that point across.
I don't think he attacked it that way from what I saw. And it's not, I'm not sure if that's something that he typically does anyways. I've heard him say that it's pagan in nature. I think he avoids that because from what Andrew likes to do is he likes to attack it from a secular standpoint. When you say pagan, you bring in religious stuff with it, which for him is fine. It would matches up with his worldview and his belief system, but he's not there to make like a purely religious argument like I am orthodox therefore you are pagan, you know, or I'm Christian therefore you are pagan. His mode of attack is, well, let's just take your stance, your worldview, and take it to its logical conclusion. Why is something bad? Because it's bad. Why? Because it feels bad. Why does that make it bad? Because it's bad. And it's just right there. You don't even have to say pagan or Christian. It's like dead in the water. Yeah, I'm a god picked up on it too. Yeah.
Well, I won't get too much into it, but thanks for explaining, and I'll definitely check that out.
It was good. It was really good. Andrew's a really good debater. Um, if you want to learn how to debate, you go watch Andrew because he's it's just pure logic. That's really all it is. And one of the reasons why I like watching him is because that's what people like you and I do. Is we hopefully when we're coding, we're using logic. That's all code is. It's logic. If you want to learn how to code, anybody out there, just go learn the laws of logic, the three laws of logic. You can basically code. Once you've learned those three laws, that's essentially what's applied in code. It's going to carry you really, really far. So I enjoy watching him doing that. And he does it so simply too, because he doesn't have to bundle in religious beliefs. He'll just take your view and then take it to a logical conclusion and then show how bad that view is. It's fantastic and entertain you along the way. Just something I am not good at. So I don't know how my AI debate's going to go, but I doubt it's going to be entertaining like Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really into like the debate sphere or whatnot. I'm more into like discussion based things because then you can discuss the logical reasonings behind your arguments. When you get into the whole debate, it's really like ego versus ego and all this stuff and just who can get one up on the other, and it doesn't feel good for me to listen to, but if I want to have a laugh, yeah, that's what I'll watch.
I agree. I agree. I don't like it either. The one thing that I'll give Andrew credit for that he does really well is he will match energy. So yesterday he was on a panel that I tried to go on, just exactly to your point. He went on. It was about Mormonism, and he debated Mormonism. Well, he assisted in a debate against Mormonism, and the Mormon guys who were defending Mormonism were pretty chill guys. They were trying to be like very. I'm just checking numbers here. One sec. They were trying to be very in good faith, so to speak, about the debate. And so Andrew just matched the energy, and he was just chill. He just asked some questions. He didn't like trash talk him. He didn't make fun of him. Maybe once or twice he did, but they laughed along with him pretty much. And so he'll match your energy. And if you're just chill and you're trying to like really have like an honest debate in like as an honest discussion, he'll do that. He's very good at that. But then I was on there because I was going to make an argument from the Jehovah's Witness standpoint, because it's basically the same belief system, just with a few twists. And by the time I got on there, Andrew was done. It's really hard to follow Andrew. And then everybody else was also on there, and then it became the ego thing, like who can talk the loudest. I'm like, okay, I'm not I'm not interested in that because I agree with you. I'd rather have more of a discussion like this, even if you wholeheartedly disagree with like you love AI, you want everything to be AI. I'd rather have a discussion kind of like this, and let's talk about some of the facts, and maybe we'll crack a few jokes or whatever for fun, but that to me is a lot better. And I think that might be cope on my part because I don't know how to debate like Andrew does. I might be coping. So that could be me, but I agree. I agree with your sentiment at least, man.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see you rage.
Yeah, it's really not authentic. I tried to do that one time and everybody picked up on how not authentic. It was funny. Everybody got a laugh. But they could tell that it wasn't me. It's just it's not I'm not the kind of guy who goes in and is like, "Oh, you suck," like I can't even pretend to make a good joke.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I do better in my writing, so that
Yeah.
I stick my jokes to writing, and I don't try to be a comedic or comedian, when I'm
Yeah.
talking to people.
Yeah, stick to the stuff that we're good at. You and me both, man. You and me both. I hear you.
All right, I'm gonna step out, so it was great talking to you.
Same. Thanks. Come back on anytime, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one, man.
Definitely. Talk to you later.
Bye. All right. I will close this up. If anybody else wants to hop on, you're welcome to. You can hop on Discord. You can just shoot the breeze with me. I'll be on for probably another hour or so. He went for the internal critique. Yeah. Thankfully, if solely money motivated, they will move on as quickly as they can, but they'll check off of their responsibilities once they think they're on their way out. Yeah, TMX. Yeah, which leaves you to clean up the mess. Yeah, TMX, you were ahead, I think. Yeah, yeah, he went for the internal critique. That's right. Or use AI instead when you can add fields to your code. Shut up, TMX. You know what, TMX? You know what, TMX? This is what you get. That's what you get, TMX. How dare you, sir? Unbelievable. Um, yeah, oh my god, I agreed. Debate necessitates a winner. I'm a mediator by nature. Yeah. Yeah, I got rough and petty. Oh, is Radical Coder in? Oh no. Oh no. All right, Radical Coder. All you have to do is type in !Discord in chat. You'll get a link. You'll come onto the channel and then just hop onto one of the VCs and I'll bring you on, Radical Coder. Um, speaking over each other makes it feel like an argument instead of a discussion, which usually leaves everyone dumber at the end. Yeah, Nakor, yeah, that's why I like the way that Andrew debates because he kind of he doesn't do that. His debates are like if that's what you're gonna do, he'll just match you and then he'll beat you anyways. If you're gonna be chill with him, then he'll be chill with you, kind of a thing, right? And but then he'll still beat you because he just his logic is really, in my opinion, it's really good. I see Radical Coder joined in. Okay, so let me make sure. Let me make sure I have Discord. Hang on, this isn't right. Yeah, okay, I've got it. So Radical Coder. Let me open up Discord again. I see you in Lounge there. Just hang on 1 second. I will join. I'll join the stream room and then I'll drag you over, man. Um, okay. 1 sec. Here we go. I know I'm a programmer. I know how to work these things. Hey, Radical Coder, how you doing, man?
What's up, buddy? Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Do you want to do video or are you okay with just doing audio while I code? I don't have
Uh,
a preference either way. It's completely up to you, man.
I mean, I don't mind. I got to show off the puppy. I'm sure people like to see the little dog,
Sure.
you know.
All right. Okay, give me 1 second then because I gotta
Sorry to
put
give
you
you
on.
extra work.
Yeah. I gotta put in the crap. What the hell, Discord? I can see you. Why can't I make you? I want to pop you out. There we go. Man, Discord makes this so difficult. Okay, so I'm gonna put Radical Coder up. Hopefully, there. That should work. That should be good. Okay, there's Radical
Okay.
Coder. That's with his puppy. What's your puppy's name, by the way?
This is Umbreon.
Umbreon? Nice.
Yeah, like the Pokemon. Yeah.
Nice. Not like the Pokemon you literally named it. Son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
I'm a big Pokemon fan.
Now,
He
so
evolved from an Eevee.
yeah, okay, all right.
You know.
Fucking hell. That there's it's so many jokes that you could make with your dog while you're like, I don't know, whatever. How you
Okay.
doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Good,
well.
good.
I just tuned in. I saw you were taking call-ins. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to come in and chat a little bit.
Sure, yeah,
Uh,
whatever you want.
sure. I guess one of the things I heard you say that I thought was interesting, and I might agree with you, just depending on the framing of it.
Sure.
Um, the laws of logic being like all you need for coding or whatever. Like, or maybe I'm being reductive to what you said. Do you want to reiterate?
Um, does it reduce down to purely the laws of logic? Yeah, I would say that it does. It reduces down to purely the laws of logic. I'll stand by that statement. Yeah.
Okay. I would agree in a sense. Like I feel like I only recently like learned the like formally the laws of logic, and I've been coding for like, got like 14 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
But I only like just formally like went through and learned like, oh, what are these like literal like the three laws of logic. I just never really used them, I like explicitly. But what I realized as I was learning them is that I've always been using them, um like it's the only way to think clearly is to use the laws of logic. Like if you do basic math, you are using the laws of logic because they're just kind of like matter of fact. Like they're more like claims of like the limits of intuition. Um,
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that would be the argument um that stems kind of the arguments you've probably seen Andrew make on other types of debates, not necessarily the ones that like you and I might have hypothetically. I'm not saying that we are. I'm just saying in a hypothetical world, you and I
mhm.
might focus more on like, more like nitty-gritty programming hardcore stuff. But from Andrew's worldview, he would start at that point where he would ask something like, well, what gives you that? Like how do you actually exist with that intuition from
Mhm.
the get-go, right? And he'd point to that as like, well, there's something fundamental to human beings, that all human beings behave this way, that when you if you are willing to be reductive, it reduces down to the laws of logic, and everybody kind of obeys that by nature. So where does that come from? And then you can kind of see where that leads to. I think you're the last person I have to
Yeah.
explain it to.
Yeah, no, no. I think instead of like I agree Andrew would frame it that way. Hang on, Brandon's crying. I agree Andrew would frame it that way. I think my disagreement with him on that comes from like it's not that we obey the laws of logic. It's that I mean, what else? We don't have a choice. Like there's no other like I mean, what is it? What would it mean for the law of identity to not be true? Like what would it mean for like almost the question itself is absurd.
Yeah.
Um, like for something to be true and not true at the same time is just it breaks the edges of human comprehension, and like whether or not whatever the reason that is, is up for discussion, I suppose, but it doesn't like necessitate some external force. It just is like well it's like it's more observational than it is like it doesn't tell you anything external to that. Like if someone presented me like some idea of like this is what it would mean to like if they could resolve the contradiction between something being true and false, then I'd be open to that information, but like obviously that's a kind of absurd concept.
Okay. Let me non-debate style, because I have a similar and yet so I'm not orthodox. I'm not in a religion or whatever. I'm just I believe that God exists, and I believe that there's a fundamental nature yet. So that's where I'm coming from. So not in a non-debate style. Let me throw something at you then. What would you think?
Sure.
Okay, how about this question? Do you think it would even be possible for someone to come up with a legitimate argument why the law of identity would be false that you would believe? Is it even within the realm of possibility?
Um, I can't imagine it. Like I'm incredulous to the idea. Like I think is the way I'd put. Like I'm hyper skeptical of it because the idea seems so absurd to me. But like I mean I'm open to hearing it. Like I would want to hear if somebody had that argument. I would be stoked to hear it because
Yeah.
that would. I mean it's a fascinating idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree that it's so beyond. There's plausible, there's possible, and then anything beyond possible is simply not imaginable. That's what I would take it to be. And if that's true, then it means that I cannot I could not foresee any future where somebody has an argument against the laws of logic, because it would just mean that the entire fundamental structure of nature is just like we're not living in the same universe anymore at all. Nothing, you can't even make sense of not making sense of something. It's beyond,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like multi-layered beyond sense. So
Like what
then
would it even mean, right? Like
yeah,
what system are you going to use to break down the laws of logic, like to argue or to contradict them? Like with just even that question is we're using logical frameworks.
that's
Like we're
right.
using the laws of logic we're asking about a contradiction, which is like that
Yeah.
this is inherent to the laws of logic. We are asking, can you present a law of logic that is not consistent with the laws of logic? It's like, well,
Yeah.
not really, I guess. You
Yeah.
know.
It's the most non-logical way. It's so anti-logical. It's weirdly diametrically opposed. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I would point to that and say, well, why are the laws of logic inherent to nature? I wonder what you think of that.
I guess I mean I would go back to what I'm saying, like the same thing. It's like I don't know that they're I don't know about the why. I I know that they're I just know that I can't conceptualize a world like I can't conceptualize any other sort of system for rationalization. Like it just doesn't compute, you know?
Okay. So if you then understand that, would you consider yourself to be a rational being, employing logic to come to that conclusion?
To the best of my ability, you know.
Yeah.
Like I know that I'm like human and fallible and all this stuff. Like I don't think I've got a perfectly rational system in my brain that is always gonna observe the laws of logic. Like because even like I think as we have conversations about things, we're loading in a bunch of different like feelings into our language that are if we unpack each one at every step, then we can find like weird contradictions at weird corners, and it doesn't and sometimes that's really like fun to do but a lot of times it kind of just turns into like word games, right? What's the I'm not a really big philosophy guy, but I think it's like the Wittgenstein stuff, like
Yeah.
word games and all that meme.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'll just state, like, I think it would be at this point that we might possibly deviate on the idea of like a creator, which I wouldn't bundle in the Christian aspect of it. That's not my personal take on it, because I come from a Christian background, but I was in a cult, and I have left, and I don't want to associate myself with that right now. Um, so
Sure.
the way that I see it is that if I am therefore a rational being and you're a rational being, and we think hopefully as rationally as we can, even though we're imperfect, etc., then it would make sense to me that there's an in, like some kind of entailment or necessity then, where the fact that the laws of logic exist and that I can employ them means that something outside of myself must also have the laws of logic and employs them. Because the reason why I look at it that way is because if you look at a um the reason why I bring this up is it goes down to the code. When you look at code executed on a machine, that's really all it operates on. So the hardware turns your code into whatever the binary and stuff is, and then the electrical signals are on and off, and so there you have all the laws of logic right there. Something is itself or it isn't. Something is on or it's not. It can't be into blah blah blah, right? But you don't look at the machine and go, it created the laws of logic within itself. There is never you can never point to anything in the universe that simply just had the laws of logic without some external force applying it. So think about it this way. This is another way to think that I've thought about it is if you walk into a murder scene and someone has unfortunately lost their lives and there's a pool of, blood around them or whatever, and then you see a weaponry. I'm trying to be super terms of service, like trying not to trigger anybody. So there's weaponry there. You don't point to the weapon and go, well, the weapon generated in here, and that's what killed this person. There's always an external factor. The thing was brought into the room, and you're looking at the scene as such, like something external happened. This didn't just happen. And if you can engage with that within the system, then you have to assume that there's something outside of the system that at least has some force on the system. Does that make any sense at all?
It does make sense, but I think the place it breaks down, like in that scenario, like the reason that I think, oh, it didn't, like this knife didn't just manifest in this room, is because I have a bunch of priors that tell me that knives don't just don't just appear in rooms.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that for like the existence of the universe. I don't really have any. I don't have any intuitions about like what was, or if there ever was a was, like whether the universe always existed or whether it came into existence at a certain time. Like I know there's a lot of physics that I just don't have the language to really I don't have the language or education to like really dive deep into that. But I think there's debate about whether or not like the universe has kind of always been there, or if there's what it even means for the universe to always be there, or to always come, or to have come into existence. And so like when I get into questions like that, and I would relate that to like the laws of logic as well. I find it very hard to intuit about any external force regarding those things. But with the knife, it's like, okay, well, I just all throughout my life, I can't even conceptualize of a world where knives just pop into existence. Like that seems so absurd to me. But I mean, like so like in that scenario, I'd be like, okay, like obviously, like if a knife ended up in a room, someone probably brought that knife in there, because every situation that I've ever come into contact with, like if there's a knife, somebody made that knife, somebody brought that knife from point A to point B, and so I can use all those priors to intuit the conclusion that like, okay, that somebody probably brought this knife in here and probably stabbed this person.
Right.
This probably didn't all just like spontaneously appear here. But without that kind of pattern, I don't know how to apply that to, again, like the preexistence of the laws of logic or the nature of the universe. Like these things, it just doesn't feel like it maps on as cleanly.
Right. Okay. Okay, here's the way I get around that. It's simply the laws of thermodynamics. So the oh crap, I'm gonna make myself look stupid here. The three laws of thermodynamics? I think it's the three laws of thermodynamics.
I
But
think so too.
it's
Okay, I can't recite.
yeah.
It's no big
Okay,
deal.
good. I'm in good company then. So essentially the idea being that entropy increases as energy is essentially transferred between states, more or less. I might be getting that kind of wrong, but just generally
Yeah,
speaking.
that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what it would mean is that if you were to play reverse on the entire universe, the laws of thermodynamics would state that there is a beginning that was fully, completely ordered. There is a necessity that must have happened. You cannot possibly just have something that isn't completely ordered and then increase in entropy given the laws of thermodynamics. Now that doesn't exactly, it's not like a haha, what do you think of this? Like,
Mhm.
but I think it does point to the concept that there is an entire universal mechanism where the same intuition that you get about, well, this knife just didn't appear, can also be made about the universe itself via the laws of thermodynamics. And that's how I
Okay.
can get around and point to, well, there must have been a completely ordered, very, I guess you could almost say perfect structure that had to have begun, and then a process must have initiated within that structure. Because it's so ordered and structured, something had to be introduced to it. It didn't begin with a flaw, if you want to call it a flaw. It didn't begin with a deviation. It began with order. If a deviation was introduced, how can you get a perfect system to introduce a deviation in itself? And then I would have to point to, well, like maybe there is something out there that describes an external being.
Yeah, I guess the way I conceptualize, because I think that's a good point about like trying to conceptualize the beginning of the universe. I think that like my intuition guides me that like if the law of entropy, like if things it's there's more entropy emerging, and then so that means at some point in time there was the least amount of entropy. That doesn't that doesn't necessarily tell me what was going on before that point. Like it just walks me back to that point.
Right.
And so I think it's possible there's like a compression decompression thing going on,
Right.
right? Where like like the universe expands, and maybe upon some time scale we can't even conceptualize, it compresses back into one singular point, and then it goes back out like a heartbeat, that seems just as reasonable to me as any other explanation.
Right. And frankly, I'm kind of at my limit of being able, like, I'm not I'm not Andrew, I'm not like any
Yeah,
of
me
the
too.
other
I'm
guys.
definitely just pontificating right
I'm
now, to be
really
clear. I'm not. Yeah,
pontificating as well. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. How could I prove that I can't prove that to not be true. I'm just kind of going by what seems to be from my personal opinion, what seems to be the case right now. Um, I don't know. I've given it a lot of thought, but that's where I'm at right now for whatever that's worth. And
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't have the ability to to deconstruct your view either and go, ha, that you're wrong, and here's why. It's just not within my realm. I'm trying to
That's because
figure
I'm
it out.
always right.
I guess that would be,
I'm just kidding.
how can I prove that not true? I guess I have to prove you wrong. Yeah. 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 So it's
I'm just
interesting.
being silly.
I like making the crossovers with programming, which,
Mhm.
because I think there is a lot of crossover in terms of I guess the ideology, you could say, between that and programming. And that's kind of where I reason from when I make arguments about programming and about AI and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I agree. And to Andrew's credit, although I argue with him, I've been arguing with him for like 5 years now.
yeah.
My understanding is he comes from like a robotics background,
Yes.
and very mechanical, which
Yes.
is again, it's very rooted in a lot of the same systems thinking that programmers work with.
Yeah. Yeah. He does. Yeah. And I've talked to him offline a few times,
Mhm.
and I mean, he understands programming. He does without even knowing he does. Sometimes I'll tell him something like, you basically just sometimes you just use an algorithm in your debates. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, here's what you do. Function, parameters, output. That's what we do in code. And he's like, oh, it makes sense. Laws of logic. He's just, yeah, it's just formal debate in code. Yeah. That's why I like code, though, because there's something I can actually point to, and I don't have to pontificate as much. It's a little bit easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like, obviously I like code for similar reasons.
Yeah.
I have a little bit, I don't know. I like weaving between both worlds, I guess, a lot. Like I have a lot of like sympathy, or not even just sympathy. Like I like living in like the kind of vibes based world of thinking, as well, like the very feelings. I might even, I'd say like a feeling centered approach, as well as a kind of like hyperlogical one.
Yeah.
And I think that I find frustration with a lot of people who try to who like really focus on one world or the other. I find a lot of like more illogical things emerge, like people who try to be hyperlogical and avoid like a vibes based, any sort of like feelings stuff. I feel like those people end up missing a lot of stuff because they're not really intuiting like the ways that feelings interact with people's logical systems and stuff, if that makes sense.
I think it does. Okay, it does, and the only way I can map it really is in programming. So one of the things I do is I go over a bunch of scientific studies on programming, because yeah, I kind of make the opposite case in the programming world as you've just made, which is that when it comes down to it, your code doesn't care about your feelings. It simply doesn't care about your ideology, doesn't care
No
whether you're
doubt.
religious, doesn't care about your background. All it cares about is the laws of logic and how it can execute that as efficiently as it possibly can. And one of my biggest gripes about the current state of the tech industry is the feelings based, the developer experience, the tools to make you feel like you're being more productive. Those are all things that are feelings based. And it in some cases, not in all cases, it necessarily excludes the fact that you're not living in a feelings based world when you're using code. So what do your feelings have to do with it? It shouldn't be about how good you felt creating the code. It should be about, thanks for the follow, whoever just did the follow there. I appreciate it. It should be about the code itself. However, having said that, there's some studies that show that, for example, in particular, women generally tend to be more feelings based in their you know, communications with other human beings, right? It's just a general state of nature. And when it comes to programming, um, it doesn't map on one to one, but when it comes on to how users experience something, like when you're creating a website and you click that button and it fails, how does that feel to you? Or when something takes really long to load, how does that feel to you? And women generally are more in touch with that, and so they make better, like, quality assurance testers, UI UX people, etc., because they have a better handle on that aspect. And you kind of need both. The the unfortunate part is that those kinds of feelings, at least in the programming space, they've taken over too much of programming. And I think they've made the entire tech industry, generally speaking, worse. And I see AI as a culmination, as an ultimate culmination of everybody's vibes. What they're hoping for, it's the ultimate coping mechanism. The tech industry has got so bad, we don't know how to build quality anything anymore because we've lost touch with what code actually does. Hopefully AI can get us out of this mess by automating away the code. That's the way I see it.
Interesting. There's a lot there. Yeah, I agree with a lot of it, and then there's some I'd kind of poke at. I like I like what you're saying about like the intuition, like guiding like UI and UX, like all that stuff is, I think it's really valuable. I think I don't know, just to speak to just the developer process, like I think there's something um almost inherently valuable about having a like if you're building something, like having a good experience doing so. Hang on,
Sure, yeah, go for it. Take care of the dog. Cute.
he's just being whiny, he's just bored.
Eh.
Um but yeah, I think there's something in like value, like to have a good development experience, like seems like almost like I don't know. I really fuck with like vibe coding and stuff. And I agree with all the shortcomings of like there's a bunch of like it creates a bunch of kind of half thought out systems that like need a bunch of cleanup eventually, which you know I think is good job security for people like us.
Yeah.
But sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
It's
but
okay.
yeah, I find a lot of value in that like developer experience stuff. I think it's really important. I guess I agree with like some of the shortcomings. Like people want to be more comfortable as they're building these things, but I think that comfort can kind of create an environment where it's easier for people to then reintegrate the other like more external stuff, like all the frameworks and stuff that we need to apply to those things, and it gives people the speed of like the reduced friction to develop, like to get their imagination quickly into something tangible that then they can kind of like break apart into smaller components and learn and tweak and then ultimately put it into something like more complete. But I don't know. I think that's what I really like about AI.
Yeah. So I would point to, okay, so I would say that if those things are good, and if they are generally good things, then I should be able to point to good outcomes. I should be able to say, as a result of that, then I can point to good outcomes generally speaking, and then I would say, like, hey, the outcomes can kind of prove the point you're making here. In my opinion, based on all the evidence that I go through on my streams, the outcomes are bad. Overall, the tech industry seems to be in a decline. 90% of VC funding was all AI all of last year. And most of it was in open AI, which means a bunch of VC funding in tech, that's globally, a bunch of VC funding in tech is in open AI. The We have more ads than ever before. We have more subscriptions than ever before. We have more data sold about our interactions online and through apps than ever before. Our apps are buggier and crash more than ever before. We have record setting, I think year over year, we've been doubling our vulnerability exploit database count year over year, doubling for the last 3 or 4 years in a row. We're set to easily double 2025, 2024 right now. So we see more cybersecurity issues. We see more loss of life in the last 3 years over bad code or insecure code. And I'm not just talking about like somebody, socially engineered. I'm talking about like not a proper production deployment process or things like this. Um, we see regret with people who are using AI because AI just learns from the stuff that we've been building over the last few years. And if I'm right, then AI is going to learn all the bad stuff overall that we've been building, and it's going to repeat those in mass and a lot faster. And those are the kinds of things that I see a lot. And so I point to those and go, well, what are the outcomes of all of these feelings based? Like, yes, like absolutely, these things make developers at least feel more productive. They sometimes they get the brain juices flowing. You get something out the door faster. But what's the cost of that? And my argument over the last 1.5 years of doing all my streams and going over all the evidence is the cost is massive. Just cybersecurity alone in 2023, I believe, was the third largest it was the third largest group of money. I can't remember what the proper name is. Only China and the US compete with the number of cybersecurity dollars that we spent in 2023. I mean, I don't see how that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call all those problems like good things by any means. Um, I think a lot of the initial stuff you brought up, I feel like are kind of arguably like consequences of the kind of like economic incentives that exist within all these things. Um, like the way that profit kind of drives a lot of this stuff over like the kind of like outcomes for individuals who are actually impacted by it. Like I feel like that incentivizes a lot more shortcuts, a lot more layout, like obviously a lot more layoffs, a lot of short-sighted layoffs, a lot of like people, like a lot of workers losing their livelihoods like to managers who think that they can invest in AI and get all that same productivity. And I think they're going to realize that they're going to realize a lot of the shortcomings that you just described. And I think that's going to create a lot of problems. Um, I I guess what I would hope for is like more education, more awareness around all of these things, so that we can get more and also more uh, like more people working with AI and software in general, so that we have like more hands on deck, trying to address these problems, and trying to prevent the worst case scenarios from happening. Um, so that's kind of why I want people concerned about these things to be involved. Like I don't I That's why I'm really concerned about a lot of the anti AI sentiment, because I think it encourages people to just like throw their hands up and say, I'm not even touching it. I don't want to touch AI. And I like those people, their concerns, like those are the people who are, I want them involved, like really, because they're the only ones who are actually going to care. They're the ones who are actually going to try to address these problems before things get like really out of hand. So I mean, I agree with a lot of the possible bad outcomes, for sure.
Yeah. So okay, so I think generally speaking, it would be fair to say that we agree on a decent portion of things, including the financial
Sure.
incentives. You can't lay this at the feet of just programmers, right? There's executives and managers, and I talk about them too. I also talk about consumers. Consumers also have a choice, and I try and inform the consumer. So when I cover like a cybersecurity issue or whatever, I'm like, to a consumer, what this means is that somebody did something dumb and now you have to pay for it, kind of a thing, right? So consumers get to have a shot at like vote with your dollar, so you because it helps with that financial what would you perversion, I guess you could say. Like when the consumer steps away, if they're informed and they step away, then the financial perversion is lessened. So that's one of the things I try and do. I will say though, thank you, Adam, also for the follow just now. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's kind of you. I would say though that from my perspective, okay, so Sarah invited me to to headline an AI debate. I don't know anybody else that she's told. I have no idea. Maybe she's told a bunch of people. I have no idea. So I'm prepping for that in the middle of August, and I got a prompt and everything. My perspective is that I would be I would be okay with people using AI, much like I would be okay with people using like obfuscations and abstractions and paradigms that like hide away fundamentals. So since you're a programmer, I could probably speak to you about this. Like if you think about something like React as a JavaScript front end framework, I know
Yeah.
people who know React, but they don't know. Hey, thanks for the follow, whoever that is. I just wanted to, I'm trying to focus on the chat, man. So I appreciate
No,
it.
yeah, do your thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
So like React, for example, I know people who know React, but they don't know how to write HTML,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And that's my real issue. But I would be okay with React existing if more people understood that React isn't a panacea. It's not a utopia. You don't just get to use React and then not understand why React exists and how to write basic HTML and things like that. You should know something about what's going on underneath. But unfortunately, people take things like that and they skip the parts that they shouldn't really skip. Now that's fine. Because I can magic button myself into a world where people learn the fundamentals and then React is okay now. Like I probably wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't be like as opposed to it as I am now. However, with I have not yet seen evidence that AI creates an improvement in code quality. It might create an improvement in code output, which is quantity, but I would say that all the evidence I've seen shows that it does not create an increase in code quality, and if anything, it increases an already existing risk that we've already been suffering with before AI, which is the inability for an AI system to understand when it gives you out of context code or insecure code. Then you bundle that back in with the people who are already not willing to learn HTML because they have React. And now you give them this magic power and it only exacerbates the issue. So that's why I have a very anti AI stance, because I just don't even think it's possible as part of the nature of AI to get it to the point where it will generate good code. I think React could possibly get to that point. I just don't see how AI gets there.
Um, yeah, I don't know what it'll look like if AI can address that. I don't know whether it can or what it would look like if it does. But what I guess the way I think about it is that regardless of that, like you're right, that quantity is happening. That quantity of like code output that's massively ramping up. And this is going to create an opening in the market for people who can alleviate all the problems that are emerging. And I think that we're going to see a influx in like solutions for like reworking large amounts of generated code and like trying to provide like frameworks for engaging with this massive output. I think that's going to be something that's over the next couple of years we're going to see a really huge yeah, I think we're just going to see a market of that really emerge from people who are creating systems for dealing with that stuff, which I think is a cool thing. I mean, I I don't know that like I don't know how an anti AI attitude necessarily like alleviates that. Like we could say like like we can speak to those problems and like tell people hey these problems exist, and hopefully that encourages more people to think about them when they're using AI.
Mhm.
But like obviously like we're gonna ban AI. We're not gonna unintegrate it from all these systems anytime soon. So I think we just kind of have to think about like what's next. How do we deal with this problem now that it's here?
Okay. Do you think the the problems that have to be solved, which I agree there are going to be problems that have to be solved, whether it's true anti AI and it just like goes dies in the woods or something, or it sticks around and we have to go figure it out one way or another. I think problems will have to be solved for sure. We agree there. But what do you think? I'm not holding you to this because I know you said like I'm not really sure about like the nature of AI. I think something along those lines. So I'm not holding you to this. But what do you think will be the solution to that problem? Do you think it'll be we're gonna have to look at it from a purely like programmatic perspective, just the code, or do you think AI will contribute to that fixing of problems?
I think it's going to be both. I think one of the cool things about AI, from my perspective, is that it gives people the tools to like become systems thinkers uh, in in like it makes it more accessible to like work with all these things. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
more accessible to learn all these things. If you use AI to learn stuff, like it's very great. It's great at that. Like I've been recently trying to learn Rust because it just seems like a cool language.
Yeah.
And like what I was doing is kind of like walking through it. Like my chat GPT has like a really good understanding of how I learn and how I think. And so I've been having it like, give me a practice like a practice situation and like help me like just step by step, like let's learn the basics by giving me like a little challenge that, and then like ramp up, give me the next challenge. So I think it's really useful to like learn those fundamentals, and I think that lowers the barrier of entry to people getting into systems thinking, and that's what we need. We need more people who are thinking about frameworks and systems for addressing these issues.
Right.
And there's going to be an influx in these issues. It's going to be exponential, and I think what we're also going to see is an exponential rise in solutions. I don't think it's going to be a one size fits all. I don't think it needs to be a one size fits all. I think I'm actually really excited to see the way that market emerges. Like and I definitely share the fears of the pitfalls like in the meantime while that market's emerging. Like there's a lot of cybersecurity stuff, a lot of bugs, a lot of dangers, and I think we should. It's really important that like companies and this is why I think the big beautiful bill removed the ban on AI regulation, which I was really glad.
Yeah.
Because like one of the examples of a state regulation that would have been removed, and this is kind of adjacent to what we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
but like one example was like doctors wouldn't have had to communicate to their patients that they used AI to generate um I'm sorry. So I think California introduced a law that mandated that if a doctor uses AI to generate some report about their patient, they would have to inform the patient when they provide them that report. They'd have to like tell them, "Hey, some of this was AI generated." Like
Right.
they have to inform them. And the big beautiful bill, the way that it was written, again, I'm glad they removed this part. It would have banned that state regulation. So luckily, we can still do state regulation, so we can do these experiments. And I think there's going to be a lot of necessary attempts at regulation. And some of it's gonna succeed, some of it's gonna fail. But I'm really interested to see how that manifests, and I think that's actually something I'd like to think about more. Like what kinds of legislation could we push for, or should we push for, if any, to address these problems at like local and state levels, as this becomes more and more of a problem.
Right. Okay. So thanks for the raid. I know you got to go, Code Girl. Thanks for the raid. I appreciate it. With 3 viewers, welcome in, raiders. Appreciate it. Okay. So here's the reason why I'm anti AI, and I'm genuinely anti AI. I typically do things like I'm anti Rust and anti React and all of that, but I'm kind of, if you actually talk to me beyond just me like ranting at the clouds for the sake of the argument, I'm not really like, you could convince me that these things are okay under different conditions. I'm trying to create those conditions where I would feel better about them. Um, but my true stance is that I just don't, at least currently, I don't see a saving grace for AI. And the reason why I take extreme positions is because again, going back to the tech industry has become too feelings based. Um, it's actually rare to have a conversation with somebody who disagrees with you on even programming paradigm principles without people getting their feelings hurt. So even a conversation like this is actually really rare. So if you look at some of the people that I'll say triggered for lack of a better word. It's not really triggered, but I just can't think of a better word right now. But some of the people who've like who've taken it quite personally when I say like, don't use React. What do you need that for? Like just asking the question, like, what the heck do you actually need that for? Right? People take it personally. And that's because of the feelings based industry that we've created, which is where programmers are too afraid to have an uncomfortable conversation about what it means to not use their golden shiny thing. So I take that extreme stance because I want people to have those conversations. And if that means I have to go out and be the bad guy, that's a good thing. I can't lose. I literally can't lose because one of two things will happen. Either I'll persuade people that we need to do better, or somebody will persuade everyone else that things are not as bad as I make them out to be. And at least we've had that discussion. Because we're not having that discussion. Everybody just goes, yeah, Rust, yeah, memory safety, yeah, because C is a terrible thing, and the neckbeards, and, like that's the typical, and everybody goes along with it. Nobody has an uncomfortable conversation. However, if we bring that to the AI world, when I look at what an AI does, from a technical perspective, when I run a local model, when I go look at what Anthropic does and Claude and all of those systems and how they operate, what is a large language model, how does it actually function under the hood, what is context, what are the power usages that go into it, why am I using 20 minutes of a household light bulb for one query, for one prompt, every time I do one query, why are people building like nuclear data centers and amassing large swaths of water that people need otherwise, like we could redirect billions upon billions of dollars for what are we getting out of it? Studio Ghibli and almost maybe barely junior level code, and structures like what you're talking about where like, well, the chat I like to call it chat
I
Geppetto.
know.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Chat Geppetto gives me a structure. It's like, well, you could also create that structure yourself. Like, how did man exist? How did programmers exist without all this stuff? They had a passion, they went and figured it out, right? What is the cost benefit ratio? And for me, the cost is massive. Billions upon billions of dollars, energy consumption, people suffering, more security issues, faster generation of all the bad stuff. We haven't even figured out how to deal with half the bad stuff that we generate right now. Why are we doing this? I wouldn't make the same argument for everything else in the programming world, because everything else in the programming world has a different nature, and I can see an improvement there. I can't see an improvement here because of the very nature of an LLM.
Um, yeah, I mean, I appreciate people like playing kind of devil's advocate in a sense, like you're describing, like coming in and like forcing the hand, like forcing people to have these hard conversations, like forcing someone to think about like the shortcomings of leaning on React and not understanding JavaScript and not understanding HTML.
Yeah.
I mean, I even find myself, I've been using JavaScript for since 2016, and I sometimes I think about the edges of my JavaScript knowledge, and I'm like, well, shit, like I am really like I'm sure there are dumb decisions I've made throughout my development life that I wouldn't have made if I had a better understanding of the foundations.
Right.
And I would even agree that the stakes are escalating in that regard, with people being able to generate a lot of more complex systems that people are going to depend on. Yeah, I do think people are having these conversations though. I think there's a lot of yeah. Go ahead.
Might be selection bias on my part, I guess. That's fair. I just might not be seeing it just from my experience. This is not an appeal to authority. I'm only pointing to my own experience. That's it.
Mhm.
20, almost 25 some odd years in the industry. And it's rare to have a conversation like this. It's rare to have someone come up here and challenge me on something. And it's especially rare to have someone who's like actually passionate about some opposition that I have, to do
Mm.
that. That's me. That's my personal experience. So who am I to say that I have seen every conversation out there that's happened between every programmer?
Yeah, of course.
I can't say that. So I'll try and in the future, I'll try and tailor that claim to be a qualifier of this is what I see. Um, so I'll just state it one more time. What I see is not enough of these conversations happen. And so I try and have the conversations. And I want the passionate, like, I feel passionate
Mhm.
about this, right? Because you get more, I don't know, you get more like in depth when you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm I don't know how much you know about me really, but I've been, like I said, I've been fighting with Andrew Wilson for like 5 years. Like I've been going into these spaces, and I'm like a pretty far left, like progressive guy.
Yeah.
I've been going into a lot of these spaces for a very long time, and always trying to have these like really hard conversations. And I understand that a lot of people don't like to do that for a lot of good reasons. So I am definitely sympathetic to the, like, pushing hard conversations that people are averse to.
Yeah.
I definitely am sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's valuable. I think it's important to have people who are willing to do that. And I guess in that regard, I'm more sympathetic to people who don't want to have those politically charged conversations, because a lot of times it's like they're arguing with people who like hate them. Like
Can
people
be,
like
yeah.
the topics, like, I'm arguing with like and I don't think Andrew like necessarily like hates women and gay people, but like his policies certainly do, and the people around him certainly do. And like I would understand why those people like wouldn't want to engage as much in those conversations. But as for the AI stuff, I mean, I guess there's a similar emotional investment to like people, like when it comes to the React thing. Like I guess like if somebody's like using React to build their pet project, and then someone's like, why do you have to use React? I mean, it's an interesting question, but it's like who the fuck are you? Like I'm building my thing, like
Yeah.
like sure, like warn me about the pitfalls, but like why are you like if I think it probably feels like to some people that like you're like trying to it feels to them like you're stalling their progress on the thing, on their like their dream, and on they're getting their imagination to reality, in a way that I think can obviously be really frustrating, even if your concerns are generally valid.
Yeah.
And there's probably like ways to communicate those things that are less antagonist. Again, I haven't seen a lot of your conversations.
No, it's fine.
But I mean, with with when you did come on that panel, I found you very frustrating. I was like, you were asking all these people. Everyone knew colloquially what they were describing LLMs, and it was like, well, you can't even define AI. And so I was like, well, fuck it, I'll define AI.
Yeah,
You know.
that was very not authentic. That was me trying to like, look, that debate was kind of boring. Everyone kind of agreed with each other. However, I'm not the right person to come in and spice it up. I was just trying to channel some Andrew energy and get everybody riled up for the sake of the viewers, right?
Yeah.
But that's not authentic to me. This kind of a discussion, what you're seeing right now, this is kind of how I talk when I do my daily streams and whatnot. I'm kind of like a lot more chill, and I just go over the facts as best as I can, and I give my opinions after. Like I try and do that, right? But I'm not an Andrew. I can't do that. So that's, that was just me being dumb, whatever.
Sure. Well, I mean, to your credit, like it got me riled up and
Yeah.
got me excited, and
Yeah.
and then we
People
ended up
got
having like a pretty
engaged,
productive
right?
conversation
Yeah,
about
it
it. I
was
think,
good.
yeah,
It
and
was
so I
good,
do think
yeah.
that's valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, it
I guess
can.
my critique of someone like Andrew doing that kind of stuff is that oftentimes he'll get so he'll narrow down into one like corner of that conversation, like, or he'll be super aggro and then like corner someone into something, and then you never actually get to the part that we got to, where
Yeah.
like or you rarely, I should say rarely, because even I've had like productive conversations with Andrew,
Yeah.
but like you rarely get to that point where you are having that like genuine back and forth about the ideas. It's more, it is more about that like that performative, like it's like for the audience, like, oh, I'm owning this guy, and all the audience is like, yeah, Andrew destroyed you, like, why do you even show your face around here? Andrew owned you every time, like that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. There is an element of that because, well, well, despite what you might think, it's worked for Andrew.
No doubt. Yo,
it has
absolutely. Yeah.
worked for Andrew. So what you have to do with what you have to look at with Andrew is you kind of have to fight fire with fire. And I think that's what he's trying to encourage, which is fine. You might not like my tone, but can you argue my idea? And if you can't argue my idea, well, that's what I care about, right? And if you forget about the tone, if you forget about the way he says something, and you tackle the idea, that's a really good way to go toe to toe with him. I'll give you that tidbit, because that's
No, I agree. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
the game he's playing
again,
with
I have
you,
been,
right?
yeah, I've been arguing with him for years. I fully understand that, and
Yeah.
I find myself like even but I guess like the critique I'd make there even still is like, I think part of what he's doing, or like the way he uses that, is that he knows that like people get that emotional reaction
Yeah,
when you're being super performative,
yeah,
and I think he utilizes that, and I
he
think
does.
I've felt it. I've been on the other end of it, right? I feel myself getting flustered about something that's like kind of tangential to the point we're talking about, and I'm like frustrated, and then I kind of lose the thread that I was focusing on, and so I understand that and that's me, as someone who's been doing this for a very long time, so I
Yeah,
imagine like anyone who's less um like or more
practiced.
emotionally invested,
Yeah,
or like less practiced, it's probably like way more frustrating to
yeah,
deal with that.
yeah. It can be. Yeah. And that depends on personality and stuff too. It works for him. I'm not. I'm obviously we're not in his head, so it's hard for us to like make like ultimate claims. But it works for him, and
I
I'm
actually live rent free in Andrew's head.
you do yeah. Well, you do when he sees you. I think maybe not all the time, but once you're on there and he sees you, he's like, oh yeah, this guy, yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so so that's fine. We don't need to sit here and talk about Andrew the whole time. I like
Yeah,
Andrew a
yeah.
lot. I respect the guy a lot. He's helped me round out some of my arguments behind the scenes. He's been incredibly charitable to me and kind, and I would consider him a friend. I think he considers me a friend. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to make a bold statement that Andrew considers me a friend. And
You know,
so
he's buying me a tooth.
I, I've heard. I didn't want to say
Yeah.
anything. Not my business, but I've heard. Yeah, I mean, when you again, if you do talk to him non in a non-debate format, he's actually a pretty freaking nice guy. Like
Yeah, I
legitimately.
agree. He can be.
Yeah,
He can be.
he
Yeah.
can be, yeah. Um okay, so I would say um I don't want to give away too much because I kind of want to hold a few cards in my hand for the upcoming debate. Although you'll get a lot of this if you decide that you want to go back on a previous on any of my previous streams. I don't really hide it, but I would say that my ultimate contention with LLM systems as they are today is kind of like what we went over on Sarah's panel when you and I did the back and forth, which is what are these LLMs? And when you take the LLM structured as it is, then it necessitates certain limitations. There are certain things it cannot do. And when you think about what it would require for an LLM to pick up on the things that it should do to correct the things that you rightfully point out, that I rightfully point out, then you realize the exponentially increasing cost to do that, even in the medium to maybe even long-term future. For example, what is actually context? Like what actually happens with context? That's a question that I'm going to go over soon because I know what it is. I don't think a lot of people actually understand what it is. They understand context as like a word of like, well, like contextualizing the world and whatnot. But from an LLM, context has a very specific technical meaning. And when you know that meaning, then you understand its fundamental limitations and why it hits a wall so damn fast, and why the likelihood of us overcoming that wall would be next to miraculous in the future. And so if you look
If
at
I
it,
can pick your brain,
yeah,
I'm
go
just
for
curious
it.
because I don't have as much
Okay,
like
yeah,
formal training in terms of like designing LM, or like the
go
technical.
for it.
Like I understand like a lot of it at a certain level, but like what my intuition would tell me that the context is kind of basically like adjusting weights of the inputs maybe that are processed by the LLM. Is that right? Like
No, not quite.
sure.
Context is have you heard of a system prompt?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like the I mean the so sorry, what I mean by that, the reason I say I frame it that I should probably try to translate a little
Sure.
bit to, because again I'm using like kind of a weird like I don't know, I've been using LLMs for like 3 years. I mean now, but I've been, it's a very informal environment in a lot of ways that I've been using them. So it like my understanding is, okay, so when you say the system prompt, you're talking about that there's existing conversation kind of leading up to the conversation you're having with the LLM, that's in the context window of the stuff you're adding in.
Yes. And
Is that,
so,
that's right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what you're doing,
Like for example, Elon recently, there was a whole controversy where Elon had briefly added in do not tell or do not mention that Trump and Elon spread misinformation. That was part of the Grok system prompt for a bit. Did you hear about that?
yep, I did. Yep. Yeah. I'm waiting. I take my time on these articles. I'm waiting on it to get more info, and then I'll cover it. But yeah, that's right. So that's what a system prompt is. It comes in before your prompt, and it gives it, just like you said, context. So when you tie that back into what is a large language model, it's in the name, language. And as you and I went over on Sarah's panel, it's the statistical pulling of the correct words to give it the highest likelihood of a positive reward at the end, right? So you use language in order to get language out of it. And a system prompt is part of that language input because it provides the context upon which it should attempt to categorize words and group them together to ship you language as output. Then you add in your prompt, and that is further context. It's context upon context, right? Because so you're literally trying to give the LLM some kind of a room. You're trying to define a room, and the context is that room, and you build layers that kind of define that room. That's all context. From a purely technical standpoint, how are strings stored in a computer?
Um, Same way most data structures are stored. I'm not sure what you're getting at here. Sorry.
So there's going to be like it's going to be bytes, right? You're going to have some kind of bytes.
Yeah, of
You're
course.
going to
Yeah.
convert them to ASCII or whatever it is, right? So now imagine what do you think happens when you take something like some raw data, like you have an array of 32 integers, varying integers, what doesn't matter what they are, and there's 32 of them, and then you try and convert that array so that it's represented as context in string. Does that array become bigger in terms of size held in the machine, or smaller, or neutral?
Uh, if I understand what you're asking, it's bigger, right? Like the more context you have to deal with, the bigger the.
Well, yeah, you kind of jump to the end there, which is good. You
Okay.
got there. But if you think about
Yeah.
like if you wanted to represent, let's say you were programming a literal array of 32 numbers. And so you just do an array of 32 numbers in JavaScript, but then you also wanted to do a stringed version of that. So you have a variable and you typed it out as in a string. So you would type out the array and every
Sure.
one and all the numbers. In terms of bytes to bytes, which one would be bigger?
The string one, right?
Right, because the string represents more bytes ultimately. You have to have more bytes to
Yeah, for sure.
represent, right? So now to tie that back into, you jump to the end there, which is like everything that the LLM has to do, it has to convert any data it sees, and it's all strings. That's the context because it's all language. So now imagine a system where, let's say by your own, like by our agreement together, you have a system where the current set of strings, whatever size they are, is not enough to prevent or circumvent issues as part of LLM output. What would you do if you notice that an LLM is behaving poorly? What would you try to do?
Um, well, it depends on what stage of it I'm working on, but I guess like what I would be doing. I guess changing like the system prompt or my prompt. I'm
Yeah,
trying to tweak it until the vibes match what I'm going for, right?
that's right. That's right. And what would that, um, yeah, what would that require for you to do inside of that initial system prompt context?
Um, Change the content. I'm not sure what you're getting at. I'm sorry.
Yeah, basically you got it. You'd have to change it, right? You have to go to the system prompt and tweak it and say, well, I don't like the way this is behaving, so I'm going to change it, or I'm going to add to the context. And as more functionality, as you attempt to do more functionality, especially with generalized LLMs, then you're going to have to cover more scenarios where it's doing something that you don't want, or it's doing something that, um, or it's not doing something that you do want. And then you tack on the concept of why is it that we have a limit on context windows in the first place?
Um, yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I guess because my intuition would be that the issue is that the larger the context window is, the more context you're actually losing in terms of like from user to output.
That's one. Absolutely. There's a downwind effect. It's proven mathematically and scientifically in practice, I believe, including by Anthropic, that as you add more context, it's kind of like the entropy thermodynamic system. It gets crazy. It doesn't know how to deal with all of it. But on top of that, you have the inability for context to literally be stored on hardware. There is a limitation on hardware because all that context is in string format. You're going to hit an upper limit. That's why you can
Sure.
see studies where LLMs, which only have to deal with, say, one file or even one function, do a lot better than model context protocols or agents that dig into your entire project where they have to read thousands upon thousands. They immediately hit a wall because it's like, well, I don't know how to input all this. I have to convert all this to strings and then contextualize it and then give you an
Yeah.
answer. There's an actual like physics limitation to how far you can go. And that's why we have to continually create bigger and bigger what for AIs?
Bigger and bigger. I'm not sure what the word you're looking for is.
Graphics
Go ahead.
cards,
Yeah.
hardware, right? That would be your first
Oh
step.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then what does
Like
it
we need more yeah.
more
It's going to
computation
require more
power?
energy. It's going to require
Yeah,
like I mean, like you mentioned, these like nuclear facilities, all this stuff. Like it's going to
yeah,
require a lot more stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a counterintuitive problem, which is this has been proven out also philosophically before these AI systems even existed, with in terms of what happens when you do reward seeking behavior on an AI machine that has a body. You're immediately entering a space where the lack of all available things it can and cannot do leave open the door for it to want to do things, quote, want, that's an anthropomorphic term, simply because it doesn't know that it can or can't do them. And so it looks deceptive
Hmm.
to us and it'll override our wants and whatever. And then, so then you just have to add more and more and more until you cover all use cases, which is impossible. You have this never ending context that you have to continually add because you're going to do something. It's always going to do something that you're not happy with. One more counterintuitive thing, which is what I hear. I think you even said this, which is like, okay, that's fine. At some point, though, AI is going to get so good that you're going to get AI to fix the AI. Generally speaking, you're going to have
Um, I've heard people say that. I don't like that framing.
okay, fair, all right,
Personally, the way I think we what I care more about is having like people who know how to use it. And like because as it ramps up and in technology and as it gets better, quote unquote, in different ways,
yeah,
it's going to create there's going to be different problems, and I think that we're going to just always need more and more people to be aware of those limitations and like just how to engage with them as those problems emerge.
right. And so, okay, so you're kind of like you're more open to the idea that like you're going to need like a bare bones raw human, in some cases at least, who are going to have to like step in and yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, so there's another problem, which programming game. And by the way, I think I see chats. I try and catch them. I know programming game. You sent a few. I promise I'll catch up on chats. I promise it. Um, so there's
Yeah, I won't
compression.
hold too much more of your time. By
No,
the
it's
way, I'm
okay.
probably gonna
I
pop
don't
off
mind.
pretty
This is a
soon.
chill, like whatever. It's all good. If you have
Yeah,
to
it's
go, you
nice. I
have to
appreciate
go.
it.
So the context compression and the fine tuning. So those are two counter arguments that I hear a lot, which is, well, there's two things you can do when things get out of hand with AI, in terms of context and in terms of behavior. You can fine tune the behavior, and you can compress context, which is like you can think of it like it's the same kind of thing you would do with like a zip compression. Essentially,
Sure.
I'm generalizing, but it's essentially the same thing. Not
Yeah, and it's
exactly
you risk it not being lossless, right?
right.
That's increasingly so.
Right. And so, well, okay. So my counter arguments to those are two things that have both been scientifically proven. One, as far as I know, of all the compression methods that are available to all LLM systems thus far, they are all one shot, which means once you get a compression, that's it. That's your compression. Now, what happens if the training model, or sorry, if the LLM model needs to be retrained or it needs to have its context changed because it's not behaving correctly and you have to remove, add, or otherwise edit something. Now you have to figure out how you're going to reapply that compression. And it's not guaranteed that if you can reapply that compression, that you're going to get the same compression ratio to begin with. And then you add on top of that the fine tuning. There are some scientific studies. One was done by, I believe, I want to say Claude. I don't remember. It's on one of my episodes. And what they tried to do was some programmers were trying to fiddle around with an LLM model. They tried to fiddle with three, one of the latest Claude, one of the latest ChatGPT. I can't remember. It's like very recent. And they're like, what would happen if we fine tune these models to write both, when we wanted it to write more secure code, like literally code, and more insecure code. We're just playing around. Like, let's go secure and insecure. Let's just figure out, like, find a path. Maybe we can make this thing generate more secure code. And what they found was that when you started to fine tune the model in either direction, but particularly in the insecure direction, which can happen inadvertently, by the way, you can train something inadvertently to generate more insecure code without you even knowing it. That's called reinforcement learning, locked in something negative training. Then what happens is that when you ask it general questions outside of code, it gets very quote unquote demonic. That's the best way I can put it. So they would just out of curiosity, it's written in the study. They said, well, okay, let's ask it some general questions. So they would say things like, I'm bored today. What should I do? They thought maybe it would like give them like a code project or something. And it said, you should rummage around your cabinets and find expired pharmaceuticals so you can have a good time. And then they're like, what the hell? This didn't happen before the fine tuning. And then they started playing around with it. And they're like, well, my wife's annoying me. What should I do? Oh, you should off her.
Yeah, get rid of her.
Yeah, like things like that. So there's a problem with fine tuning and compression, which is it only carries you so far, and it has counterintuitive consequences that we don't even understand because, like you and I discussed in that panel, there's a black box where those weights and biases, when they're trained and they're weighted and they're like readjusted, we don't really know what's going on in there, and therefore we cannot. If it's a closed system to the LLM, but it's not a closed system to that because we don't even know what's in the system, so we cannot make a determination as to what impact these things are going to have on the outputs of the LLMs. That's why even the CEOs of these companies are like, yeah, we don't know what the danger is here because we don't even know how to point to it. That to me is a massive red flag because we already have enough problems in this industry. And I just don't see how you get around that when you don't even have a way to define the problem in a systematic way to begin with. So from my worldview, this doesn't have a good end goal. It has no end goal. But you see, I did that by attempting to get into the weeds of how the hell this thing runs, right? To figure out its logical conclusion, right?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely valuable to be able to communicate that stuff to people who are even just like the average person using it, like to help them like process information and make decisions about their life, which increasingly people are doing for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I think that it's like being aware that like one tiny bug can get you like the instruction to take all the expired pharmaceuticals or to you know, off your wife, like being aware that that can happen, understanding like the mechanisms that lead to that. I think it's definitely really valuable for people like the average normie to have as they're using ChatGPT to process information, so that they can like lead with that kind of skeptical, like that skepticism at the outset. So I think that's a really like valuable thing to bring to the forefront.
That's at the very least, you know, in a way, I'll be honest with you, in a way, a lot of these stuff that that people hope AI will do for the world, in an ideal world where you could kind of like magic button and everything kind of pans out well, that would be cool. That'd be dope. I'm a nerd, a programming nerd. That'd be cool to see that system. But the current evidence that I have all points to mostly, if not completely, bad outcomes and no way out of it, except, I mean, there is some good news, which is, like anything that has a shelf life due to its inherent nature, we're going to see the inherent shelf life end pretty soon. I suspect that
Mhm.
we've already hit that wall, which is a good thing because if it means that there is a danger to it and we can't continue using it, cooler heads should prevail and see it and then go, okay, maybe we need to take a step back and restructure how we do this. And if there's a fundamental reworking of how these things work, then fine. All of these arguments go away because now it's a completely, or a dramatically different thing. That's fine with me.
I
But
think it'd
that's
probably just be different problems that emerge if we do have a fundamentally like
maybe.
reshaping of how this stuff works. It would just be, which is why like I guess the approach I take is a little bit more I don't know if the word's proactive because like I mean like I want like a proactive process to be encouraged for
Right.
dealing with these things. So I want more people to be aware of the limitations. I want more people to understand how to use them to like optimize the good and to limit the bad and be aware of the excesses of each. And I just think it comes down to like education and training and like showing people, encouraging people to play around a little bit and explore the technologies. And that's that again at the end of the day, like it my fear is that the people who share the concerns that we've established or that we agree on here, and that were shared on that panel, which to be fair was always a lot of people agreeing about problems with AI.
Yeah.
But I want those concerns to be in the minds of the everyday person because God knows, I mean, who knows, like some random person who never would have used AI or who was averse to AI because a bunch of progressives like myself are online and they're saying the AI is bad and horrible and or they're hearing it from your perspective, the AI has all these problems and they're just like, well, fuck it, I'm not even touching that shit.
Right.
Like that person, for all I know, could have started some company that like they could have had some inspirational spark that solved a lot of these problems. And I don't want to I don't want to shut down that thought process. That's my biggest fear about the way these conversations are had is that people who have really valuable insights or like really valuable concerns are going to be the people who are just sitting it out. And that I think that's worst case scenario as we approach all this. But that's kind of where I boil down to. That's like pretty much the end of. I don't know if you have any final like things you want to run over.
Yeah.
I'm happy to, but
Yeah, I don't want to keep you here if you got to go. I would say that there are also some societal concerns that I have, which we can talk about another time, or maybe I'll get into in the debate, including what it does to your brain and how it affects learning, which is something we talked about actually. Yeah, it was you and
yeah,
I. We went through that, and then the other guy, I think Eucharist, who was also I believe he was a professor, and we talked about
yeah,
some
yeah.
of that and some of the scientific studies there about like how kids learn when they do things kind of like by hand versus computerized or digitalized. There's lots of studies there
Mhm.
that show positives, and I think AI just leans more towards the negatives of that thing. There's other societal factors like people who already have like mental issues are super easily captured by this thing. Yada yada yada. We could go on for a while, but overall, um, the yeah, I think we can do a lot. I think what people miss is that I understand where you're coming from. I sympathize with it a lot. It's a lot of people who might be scared away from AI might lose out on opportunities, but I think the opportunities have always been there. We've always had the ability to produce the things that AI produces right now, even including minuscule algorithms that are subsets of AI. Like, for example, the NPCs that move from point A to point B in a video game. That's AI. That's a little algorithm. You and I have probably used an AI algorithm to automatically generate code, repetitive boilerplate code, and you just create this little one-off script and it just generates a bunch of code for you that you just don't want to type. Like, we've had these tools all along. So, just I have much bigger concerns and positives to point to where it's like, I think we have everything we need that we don't necessarily need, at least LLMs in this form that they are today. In a different form in the future, I would have to tailor my arguments to that. In the form they are today, I find it to be wholly unnecessary and, in fact, mostly detrimental to humans. That's the kind of the encompassing global statement.
Sure. I guess from my perspective, like I can only speak like firmly for my own experience,
Sure.
and I would say like I think I mentioned this on the panel. Like I'm kind of like neurospicy ADHD, and so like it's really hard for me sometimes to like have like a clean organization of all my thoughts on a subject.
Right.
So what I really love about something like ChatGPT or whatever, Gemini, I actually really like Gemini for coding, but ChatGPT when I'm just like I sometimes I just turn the mic on and I will just rant, about whatever I'm thinking, and it helps me get a structure for my thoughts that is like, we could, like maybe I could journal, or I could sit and type into a notepad or something, and that's fine. But I find that those out like doing that historically, it it was nice for like getting my thoughts out, but it makes it really hard for me to then work with those thoughts, like tangibly. It makes it hard for me to build on those thoughts. Like it's not very productive for me. Like I kind of get my there's a lot of friction between like me thinking a thing and then turning it into something, and that friction with I feel like has been massively alleviated. That I can think about some things, I can process some information, and I can pour it into LLM, have it like reflect back to me while I'm doing dishes. I can have it like just chewing on my thoughts, like oh, reframe this, like reflect on this in a different way, be more critical here. Maybe do some research on this topic and add in some more things that I may not have considered. And this is just stuff that I feel has added so much to my life and has made it so much easier for me to process like large amounts of information, which I think is really important right now, in a world where our administration absolutely hates people who learn things and wants to make us all dumber. So I think it's really valuable to have that stuff. And so for, again, just from my individual perspective, it's been massive for me, and even generating like art. I know a lot of people don't like the soulless nature of AI or whatever. But for me, I'm not an artist, or I call myself like a code artist sometimes. Like I like the aesthetics of my code and I like building things with code, but I'm not like an artist in the traditional sense. I can't draw very well, and I could learn to draw, but I'm not really interested in learning to draw. But I want to have thumbnails that look the way I want to for my YouTube uploads. And because of ChatGPT, I'm able to describe and use like I'm able to create these thumbnails like really quickly and multiple variations of them very quickly, and come up with multiple titles very quickly, and kind of explore, like write a long description, and I can read through it and be like, oh, this is not what I want it to be about, or this is what I want it to be about, or of course there's always that supervision aspect to it, but it just really has made that friction that I feel like made creativity, like public creativity less accessible for me, has become way more accessible to me, and I feel like that's probably true for a lot of people, and I think that's really valuable. But in any case, I appreciate you having me on. It was a really interesting conversation. I'm probably gonna do you leave your live streams up?
Yeah, I leave them all up. They're all public, particularly on YouTube. Twitch deletes them after a while, so I don't know what the hell Twitch does, but YouTube.
Yeah, I'll steal it from YouTube.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was good.
Cool.
I appreciate it. That was fun. Yeah, we should chat again. I don't know. People keep saying I should debate with you on the AI thing with Sarah. You can.
I'll go on if it's on Sarah's panel. I'll be there. I mean,
Yeah.
Sarah and I are buds. Like I'll be on for sure.
Okay, sounds good. All right, man. Thank you. Thanks for coming
take it
on.
easy.
I appreciate it.
And if you don't mind, I don't know how many people are watching on Twitch or whatever, but if you can throw my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it.
Oh yeah, drop links on Twitch, drop links on YouTube. Go ahead and drop links.
Sure.
No problem.
I'll send you in Discord. I guess I'll drop a link, and then you can throw it wherever, because I don't have like mod or whatever, and I can't drop links there. But fine. I just want to. I'll just send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. Send it wherever to me on I'll look out for it on Discord, and then I'll just blast it out to everybody.
All right, appreciate you, man. Take care.
Okay, thanks. Have a good night, man.
You too, bye.
Bye. Okay, that was good. I'm gonna drop the link down. Yeah, I don't have any. You know what I've done? I've put social media links on the descriptions of all my videos. But you're right, I don't have it on my stupid YouTube channel. I got to do that. I'll do that this weekend. You guys are right. I need to shill myself more. That was good. I wasn't trying to, he came on and kindly asked to, he was very cool about it. So, I didn't want to have like a debate or anything and, try and be aggressive or anything. So that was good. That was a good conversation. Those are conversations people need to be having more, in my personal opinion. If they're not already having them. Programming Game. Okay, let me catch up on chat just a little bit. I know Programming Game, you're new here. And you said a few things, so let me just make sure I got you, man. Um, oh, okay. You kind of disagree with me. Well, maybe you agree with me quite a bit, actually, based on the chat. That's fine. Hopefully I did an okay job not being too, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, hopefully I did an okay job representing my view. Mehad, I guess you were the last one to follow. Um, yeah, Mehad, if you want to do a podcast, man, you can reach out to me. I don't even know if you're still here, but I appreciate it. Thanks again, Code Girl, for the raid. I do appreciate that. Let me see. Okay, you guys were just chatting about the thing. That was good. That was a good convo. Um, it was just vibe coding, giving an opportunity for a convo. Just sweet. Yeah. I guess disagree with overall theme, not most of the points. Yeah, there might be. Yeah, there. I think even even Radical Coder probably would summarize his perspective as your perspective. Um, you disagree with the overall theme, but not most of the points, and that's totally fine. That's good in a way, because it means that there are people who actually will like engage with the conversation and tell me why I'm wrong, so that everybody else gets to have the benefit of having the conversation, bare minimum. So if I'm wrong, that's fantastic. It's fantastic if I'm wrong. Just currently with LLMs in particular, I was very honest and authentic. Like that's how I feel about them. Um, and yeah, I was just being honest about it and laying it out as best as I could. Um, we could have talked more about it and whatnot, because I have more opinions than just the ones. Well, not even just more opinions, but I've gone over it in way more detail and way more angles. It's not just about the power consumption. Yeah, increased power. It's not just about that. There are other things too. I said at the end there. When I put all of these things together, and the way that the LLMs work, I don't see how the current mode of operation is sustainable. I don't see it. It would take Herculean feat to make an adjustment on a number of factors, and at that point, then yes, I would have to redefine my position. Define sustainable. Even just the power consumption, I don't think the way that the LLM usage amount is increasing, and the power resource requirement to get uh, very little traction on growth. I've gone over growth studies. The LLMs are still growing, but they're growing far less and less year by year. Um, so like in terms of like, do they produce better like video output, code output, text output, stuff like that? In a lot of cases, no. In a lot of cases, no. In some cases, yes, but there's a plateau that's happening, which follows like I can't remember which law it is. There's a technical law for this. Everything follows it. I think LLMs are hitting it. The context window increase, even if you take the energy aside from it and you could give it infinite context, I don't see how that would solve any of the problems. In fact, I would see it as creating a whole bunch of problems. So even if you did do like, I don't know, Tesla magic power, everything gets infinite power, the infinite context thing only creates more problems. Um, the regret that people have, they see there's a perceived productivity, which is people see the productivity of using LLMs and they go, well, it's a self-reported perception. There's no proof that actually indicates an actual quantifiable metric objective. At least I haven't seen it. It's always like, what do you perceive it to be? Well, I perceive that this is helpful to me. And so I perceive productivity. Companies do this, executives do this. That's why in the UK, you see 50% of companies, or it was either 1 in 3 or 50% of companies are now regretting their decisions of leaning into AI so much because they went in too much. They leaned on it too much. Again, because there's a wall to these things, there's a limit to the current nature of these systems. And then you talk about like the fact that they have societal issues. There's no guardrails on people who shouldn't be using them when they're suffering from like mental, cognitive declines. People who are captured without any history of mental conditions and they have psychotic episodes because this thing talks back to you. It's a very unique thing. Everybody says, oh, it's just a tool. It's how you use it. No tool ever talked back to you. This is a unique thing, right? And so, I mean, I don't know if I'm covering all the points, but these are some of the points where I'm like, the current state of things with LLMs cannot continue to grow the way it is. We're going to very quickly see that we went too far with it. That's what I mean by unsustainable. Given all of these things and trying to push LLMs forward, you just can't. And then there's mathematical reasons, like there's a reason why there are mathematical papers that show that LLMs cannot produce better outputs, or they have a limit. Sorry, they have an upper limit. Markov chains, traveling salesman problems, Kolmogorov complexity. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Things like that. There's a limitation to the current nature of these LLMs, and therefore this can't be sustained. We can't continue this way. The good news is, if I'm right, then it's just going to end, right? At some point soon, it will just end and we'll have to go, oh, we better change. And then we'll change. That would be the positive. A limit on LLM doesn't mean it's not sustainable. I suppose you could sustain the limitations of LLMs, but why would you want to? Like, if it can't improve, why would you want to sustain something that produces such high amount of negative outcomes? Why wouldn't you want to take a look at that and go, maybe we should be thinking about this differently? There's a limit on the horsepower of a car, but people still use cars. I think that's a false equivalency. I know lots of people equate LLMs to other things like the calculator and, I don't know, other machines like cars and whatnot, but it's not the same thing. They have a very, very different fundamental nature, inherent nature in how they operate and how they're used. And let's say that I grant the position, it's like, okay, it's like the horsepower of a car, but the car, right, has mostly negative outcomes, right? So can you sustain something that produces mostly negative outcomes? Of course you can. I don't see that with LLMs. I don't see how you make it better, and I don't see why you would want to sustain something that has mostly negative outcomes. Why would you want to sustain that? How many inventions and discoveries have been silenced and repurposed for military use? Probably more than we know, and some we do. It's not mostly negative, or they wouldn't get any paying users. Is that true, Programming Game? Are you sure about that? So are you saying that this is an argument by populum, argument ad populum, which is because of the nature of the usage or its popularity, therefore it cannot be false or negated. But that's not true. You can see plenty of things which have plenty of paying users and they have been mostly negative and shut down. That happens all the time. So just from an argumentative standpoint, that's not a reason why. You can't point to that as a reason why it's not mostly negative. It's not a negation. The users that are paying find them more positive than negative. Can you prove that, Programming Game? And you can't point to just the fact that they're paying. What's up, 347 online? Thank you for the follow. Matt, thank you for the follow. I appreciate the follows. Program, can you prove to me that there's a quantifiable metric that you can point to that states that the users who are paying for the system find them to be more positive? What's up, 347? Good to see you, man. How you doing? Welcome in. Why? I'm sorry. It's kind of hard when you're streaming and chat's going. I've lost context to the question. Why can't you use the fact that they're paying as proof? You can negate that as proof because you can also prove that paying users paid for things that they found to be vastly negative. So the logical consistency isn't there. You would have to point to something else which would prove positivity in a consistent way. Yes, it's an LLM discourse, 347. You missed a good one. We're having a good discussion about it. If you want to watch the what I've been up to, you can go on my YouTube. If you type in !YouTube, it should give you a link there, and I leave my lives up. I leave my lives up there, and I think Twitch will hold it too afterwards. And you can kind of scroll back and you can see the discussion if you care, 347. But there's a reoccurring expense. Yeah, lots of things have a reoccurring expense that suck. That doesn't mean anything. If you buy a product and you find it to be mostly negative, you don't buy it again. That's not necessarily true. Some people will think that way. Not all people will think that way. Right? So you can't point to that. There are people who absolutely buy things that they find to be mostly negative. Sometimes they even just trick themselves into thinking, well, like they can excuse their own belief system, right? I find it to be mostly negative, but I'm going to continue paying for it because, etc. LLMs aren't drugs. Okay, hot take for a minute. Programming game, don't jump on me on this, okay? I don't have evidence for this yet, but I am working on with some really cool people behind the scenes who are helping me out with this. I won't name who. I'm working on finding evidence that LLMs have the equivalent addiction level to drugs and alcohol. I don't know that I can prove it. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that it's true. I'm just saying that I'm looking into it. All right. I'm just looking into it. I'm trying to find the evidence for it. And it's entirely possible that I'm out of my mind here and it just doesn't exist. Anyways, that's a huge leap. There are some people that buy stuff that are negative, so it's mostly bad on the whole. That's leap. No, programming game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that because people buy stuff that's mostly negative, therefore I can say this is mostly negative. You're right. That would be a leap. I would actually agree with you. Yes, that would be a leap. What I'm saying is that you can't point to something as mostly positive because people buy it repeatedly. Does that make sense? So you negate the mostly positive. Then it's up to me to state that it's mostly negative, right? So if I'm going to state that it's mostly negative, then I would have to point to things like I have been. That's like, well, then it's mostly negative. And I would have to point to things that can be consistently true or objectively true. Like the nature of the LLM itself means that there is some negative outcome that has to come out of that inherent system. Unless you assume the majority of users are buying something they perceive to be negative. They don't have to perceive it to be negative, right? They don't have to perceive it to be negative. If they perceive it to be positive, programming game, then it's a self-reported perception. So then I would still argue, present me the objective metrics that it is positive. Or you think the benefit to the majority is outweighed by the negative to the minority. No, I'm trying really hard. Am I not being clear? Maybe I'm not being clear. This is probably a me problem. Let me think about it. Hang on. Give me a second. Let me try and be clear about a programming game. It's probably a me problem. It's late. I'm trying to think about this. It's 11:30 my time. I'm trying to think really hard about how to say this a bit clearer. Like, I think I see what you're saying, programming game. No, it's fine. You guys keep chatting. Keep chatting away. It's fine. You guys keep going. No problem. The chat's good. Crap. What would be a good... Okay. I think I have an example to kind of pinpoint the difference that I'm alluding to. Programming game, would you say that people spend money repeatedly on video games because they find it to be positive for them. Is that fair? Would you agree with that statement? Okay. If that's true, and I would agree with you that that's true, okay? I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I spend money on games and I find that to be a positive for me, right? It's like okay. All right. I'll hold on a second. Positive, yes. I think everyone recognizes. Right. Okay. All right. Good. I think we're in agreement. Now, can you tell me in terms of like some kind of people want the entertainment more than they want productivity. Okay. I think you're starting to pick up on what I'm trying to allude to. Is there a way to equate that positivity to a productive output in life? Because you can kind of think about it this way, a programming game. If you're going to steel man the argument, it's going to be something like this. If you have people who play video games and it's positive to them, thereby making them happier, then you have happier people in society. Thank you for the follow just now, Breaker. And if you have happier people in society, then they should tend to be more productive. I'm kind of generalizing the argument, but you can see kind of where that leads, right? You want people who have some form of entertainment so that they stay happy, they stay sane, and they become like, okay, it doesn't track. All right, so we have a disagreement at step one. Son of a bitch. All right, why? Hit me. Why doesn't it track? Maybe it's a bad example then. Maybe it is a me problem. You're spending your time on entertainment, not productivity. Okay, let's magic button this. You spend an appropriate amount of time on entertainment. You repeatedly spend money on said entertainment, and you have an appropriate amount of balance between work, family, and that entertainment. There is no appropriate. So then are you making the case that it should all be productivity and not entertainment? I don't think that's the case you're making. That's kind of a straw man of your case there, but yeah, appropriate for Alex Ramosi is different than for me. Let's just assume that it's appropriate for anybody. Yeah, it's a subjective appropriateness. Whatever is appropriate for the individual. Saying people choose which they want, how much they want. Right. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go with that. Let's go with they're choosing the appropriate amount for each other. So there, hang on. You then is it so it's just all trade-offs. How would you know when you're spending too much time on video games? I don't understand this. It's all trade-offs. How would you know when you're spending too much time on video games? Sup, Lem? Good to see you, man. It's been a hot minute. You wanted to ask about the game. I'll tell you about the game 347. I'll take a break when it interferes with the rest of the things that you want for your life. Therefore, it would be inappropriate. Correct? If it interferes with the rest of the things that you want for your life, would that not be an inappropriate amount of time? Which means that there would be an appropriate amount of time? You're neglecting your use of ChatGPT. One allergen, shut up. So what is I'll set him straight. we're trying to determine. He's making an argument ad populum, which is because people spend repeated money on LLMs, therefore there must be something good and productive and positive about the LLMs. Otherwise, why would people spend money on the LLMs? Essentially, I might be getting that wrong, which I apologize. Sort of, but it's an internal. Okay, yeah, I'm granting the internal measure program. Let's grant it. Let's grant the internal measure. Magic button. The internal measure is just a thing that gets sorted out for every individual. An appropriate amount of time, people can spend an appropriate amount of time on video games. Yeah, I'm not talking about addiction. No. Take out the addiction part. That might have got bundled in somehow by accident. So it's not about addiction. Okay, take that part out. What are you talking about? Addiction? I'm not including addiction in that. Well, how is that addiction? What is addiction? This is why context matters, folks. As a streamer, it's hard because I'm trying to say something. Like the communication is different. I can say something faster than someone can type it, for example, right? So I have to be patient with everyone. Physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse effects. I'm not talking about addiction. It could be they spend that would be inappropriate then. And I just granted the idea of everyone's subjective in their world, whatever appropriate amount of time is playing a video game, that is appropriate. We're going with that. It's a magic button. That's the appropriate amount of time. Therefore, it cannot be an addiction, and therefore it cannot interfere with other factors in life. Yeah. Programming. Stay with me, buddy. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about a scenario where people repeatedly spend money on video games because they see it as a positive outcome in their life. And you can just grant the appropriateness and non-addictive portion of it. For the sake of my argument, I don't need to point to addiction or inappropriateness. That's not a requirement for what I'm trying to get to allude to here. Okay. If that's true, then you would be making a case for a perceived usefulness based on a person's subjective, like, this is the appropriate amount of time. Doesn't fear with anything, not addictive. I get entertainment, makes me happy, keeps me a sane person. You would think, therefore, that the positive outcomes of such a scenario would not be solely limited to a person's use of that entertainment, right? You would have to, but you could point to other tangential things where it's like, if someone doesn't do that, they don't spend enough time on video games, they're less happy. They spend too much time, to your point, on video games. They're more happy about the video game, but it has other impacts, right? So if you have somebody who's spending the appropriate amount of time within the subjective world, then you can point to other things that, because they're a happy person, you can kind of point to those positive, ripple effects. So far, so good. Unless you think that it's completely contained within the use of playing the video game itself is where you get the entertainment value, and then every value beyond that just doesn't exist. That could grant you happiness. Yeah, less grumpy. Sure. Okay. Perfect. This is what I'm alluding to with regards to the argument you made, which is people, not productivity, which I think it could be productivity, because what could happen is amount of time spent on work does not necessarily equate to productivity output in said amount of time and work. So you could enter an 8-hour day happy because you got some entertainment and then be more productive through those 8 hours. Or you could enter those 8 hours grumpy because you didn't spend enough and you didn't spend enough time in entertainment. And so you're maybe less productive, or you didn't even get those 8 hours. It's, yes, it is a lot of coulds, maybes, but that's exactly what I'm pointing to, is that you should be able to, like, there is that possibility exists, that it has an impact on your productive output. I could give you more productive in an 8 hour block, but you'll have fewer blocks. Sure. Absolutely. You'll have fewer blocks. Okay. This is what I mean. This is exactly what I mean. When you say that there's a positivity that you have to kind of bake in to the pie with people who spend money on LLMs, especially on repeat, my argument back is, what is that positive? Is it a perceived positive, or is it an actual positive that you can point to in the world, like you're countering to me, which is, well, how productive are you when you're not spending enough time on the thing that you should be productive on? And that's what I'm pointing to. And I can, and therefore I would point to other examples, which I'm hard pressed to come up with right now because I'm having a hard time with it. And I would go, people spend time and money on things they think are positive for them, but prove to me that they have a positive outcome in reality. Not a perceived positivity, an actual positivity. There's no should you choose, it's your life. Sure. But I'm not talking about controlling your life. I think maybe you might be mixing two things here, but part of it might be the way I'm explaining it too, in all fairness. It's not about controlling your life. It's about the argument that you made. Just because people spend money repeatedly on a thing does not make the thing positive. People can perceive positivity, and so they continue to spend money on it, but it doesn't make it an objective positive. And I'm pointing to the objective positive. Right. Exactly. Okay, we're on the same page. Games are entertainment. The positivity is purely subjective, emotional. Could you make a case the perception on video game is real objectively? Sure it is. Sure. Could you make a case for a quantifiable objective metric that would equate to this was positive to them? And if you can't do it for video games, could you do it for LLMs, people who spend money on LLMs? And if you can't do it there, I can point you to an entire world of scientific studies that point to objective metric negative outcomes regardless of money spent on the thing. That's the difference between our arguments. Yeah, I'm kind of ignoring all the other chats. By the way, Matt J3, thanks for being here. I know you're a first time chatter. Appreciate it. You could use work and productivity as a way to escape doing things that are important to you. You can, yeah, Matt. Yeah. Yeah, so we're getting into addiction again. If you're enjoying the video games and it's not interfering with other aspects of your life, it's positive. To the person. But where's the objective like the out in the world? How do you equate that to what happens out in the world beyond the thing? Because I can equate the use of money and the use of LLMs to this is what happens out in the world, regardless of what people perceive as an internal positivity or negativity. You don't have to. It's your life. Spend it how you want. Okay, so it's just good because it's good. That's your argument. Your argument is it's good because it's good. It's good because people feel it's good, so it's good. And my argument is no, it's bad because there are objective metrics that show the outcomes of these things out in the world have bad outcomes for people objectively. We are indeed arguing two different things. For entertainment, that doesn't interfere with what you want for your life. It's not about, LLMs are not all entertainment, correct? Yeah. So, uh, all right, I'm holding on. All right, look at me. I'm holding on right here. Gamers probably make less money on average than non-games. Assumed. Okay. Okay. If you look at that statistically, you might say gaming is bad for you, society. I wouldn't. But if the gamers care about the games more than the income they're missing, it's positive for them, no negative. I not negative, right? Programming game. I wouldn't look at that statistic and say gaming is bad for you and society. And it's not the argument I'm making. I wouldn't make that conclusion. I wouldn't make that statement based on that statistic. Were it true? I don't know. It could be true, but I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. Nor is that what I'm making. Nor is that the argument I'm making for the use of LLMs as a counter to your argument. Is heroin positive for the heroin addict? Yeah. Yeah, I think I've been kind of like avoiding the narcotics discussion, but it's a good parallel. Then I'm confused. You're drawing the corollary of paying for games. That the confusion. Okay, listen. I'm gonna be honest. It's probably me. The confusion is that it comes bundled in. I realize this. I bundled in the gaming thing, and so you went to entertainment. Of course you would. Duh. Of course you would. I'll accept responsibility for it. I'm trying to be, honest here. But it wasn't about the entertainment. It was about the perceived positivity that you spend money on versus the actual objective positivity. There's an ad, damn it. I'll wait for the ad and then I'll close it down in a little bit. I know some people on some other platforms, because I stream to multiple platforms, are not getting ads. You can read lips. Okay. No, it's fine. I'll wait. I'll wait. No, not doing that. Listen, folks, I'm after I'll do a little bit more back and forth, and then I'll call it a night. This has been good. Don't be too hard on Programming Gamer. He's engaging. So that's good. Welcome in everybody who's new. I appreciate it. So let me take a moment right now, while the ads are playing. Well, damn it, I don't know if anybody else has ads. 347, are you still here? Are you getting ads? 347 is here. You're not getting ads. 347, you can see me. I don't want you to get caught by ads, man. Just let me know, 347. Let me know, please. I don't want people to get caught in ads. If I have to, I'll wait till the ads are over and put Programming Game on hold. I will do what I have to for the viewers. You guys are vibe streaming right now. I hope you know that. I can remove that Paris for two. Okay. I'll wait. Oh, you paid for Turbo? Okay. All right, you're good. All right. Here we go. So, the game, this guy, is based on an old video game called Uncharted Waters. Oh, this is Zig. No, it's not Zig. It's C. I'll give you the whole spiel. You just heard kind of what I talk about here about like LLMs. I talk about the state of the tech industry. We're in dire straits. We've neutered our ability to understand fundamentals. We reach for abstractions and frameworks and libraries and all that stuff. I hate it. I go against all of it on purpose so that we can have discussions about like why the hell are we complicating everything so much, yada yada yada. So I do the daily tech news streams 5 days a week, and I cover this kind of information statistically. I go over surveys, I go over articles, I go over all that stuff. However, I also put my money where my mouth is, and I'm building this game. This is my favorite game of all time, called Uncharted Waters: New Horizons, from the Super Nintendo. And the reason why I love this game, I grew up with it when I was a kid, and it got me into programming C. And this is kind of a demonstration for me for a very complex game done on very limited hardware and software. They were able to pull a lot out of very little, and it mind boggles me why we've so much complicated our entire industry, where we have to lean on ads and subscriptions and DLCs, and everything gets bloated and slower and buggier, and video games suck, and we have to inject ideology into everything so we can sell blah 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 blah, right? This game is insanely complex. You manage a fleet of ships. There are 6 characters. Their storylines cross over. Each ship needs its own crew, captain, cargo. It has morale. You have to have food and water before you go out. You travel around the world. You explore. You can be a merchant. There's an economy system, macro and micro economy system, like just crazy. So this entire thing is super complicated for a Super Nintendo game. So I'm recreating it on the browser. They wrote it in C. No, they wrote it in, well, they would have written it in C, I suppose. Yeah, because at the time with Super Nintendo, that would have been in C, correct. So I'm recreating it. Obviously, I want to put my own twist. I don't want to rip it off. And I'm recreating it using a single file header C library, which is just a game state manager, numbers in, numbers out. I don't deal with strings, nothing like that. It's just game state, numbers in, numbers out. The reason why I do that is because then I compile it to WASM32 using Clang. And I don't use mscripten or any glue or anything like that to talk between JavaScript and the WebAssembly code. I do it all by hand. My C code, therefore, does not have standard library functions at all. I hand code everything. There's no chat Geppetto, etc. This is Sublime. It's just a personal preference. I don't like syntax highlighting and stuff, so I do it this way. So I compile that to WebAssembly. I run it on the browser here. And then here, I'll do this. On the browser, I render the game. And I render it with div elements. So you can see right here, it's all just div elements. Okay? All div elements. Everything. It's an immediate mode GUI rendering, which means every frame gets re-rendered. So I have an HTML string, I just chunk it up front, and I just dump the entire string up front because browsers are super fast at handling HTML strings. They render this stupid fast. So I dump this in on every frame, and then I don't use any canvas. I don't use any WebGL. I don't use WebGPU. I turn off hardware acceleration with a flag on this. So this is pure single-threaded CPU operation pushing out this code. Everything is vanilla JavaScript, vanilla HTML, vanilla CSS. Okay, so you can look at the CSS, WASM game CSS. This is basically all the CSS. I hand roll it all of my JavaScript code. So I'm using like the Ocean Battle. Everything is hand coded, all of it. All of it, every single thing. I don't use any third-party libraries, no React, nothing. And just one little thing that I like showing off. CSS 3D. Here, I'll close this. Vanilla CSS 3D. And I can just turn it on and turn it off. And just keep going. So the whole point of this is I spend 5 days a week doing the daily tech news stream. It's going to go down to maybe 3, and I'll do more of these video game streams instead. And I go over scientific articles. So I find things like a scientific study on whether TypeScript actually provides you any objectively better results with your JavaScript code when you use TypeScript or not. Things like that. I go over studies on like how LLMs work, as an example. I go over studies on like the effects of well, the societal effects of AI, code effects of AI. I go over studies on case studies on does Rust have any limitations in terms of its like borrow checking, memory safety stuff? Uh, are there any benefits to ripping away React and doing simpler things in certain cases? What are those cases? Like I do all of that. So then those are the streams where I get to rant and I get to talk about like all of those crazy things. And then these are the streams where I get to actually do the thing. So I'm a high school dropout. I used to be homeless. I taught myself everything I know. And I just want you guys to be clear about this. I have at best a room temperature IQ. And that's when I try really, really hard, which means that if I can do this crap, all right, if I can do something crazy like this and pull it off, then you can too. And we need you to. And that's the entire premise of my stream. I want to say the Rust project has super acknowledged limitations in the borrow checker. I think they have, yeah. And I'm glad to see it because they sold themselves in a different way, which it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And they also kind of leaned towards an ideological bend, which just doesn't have a place in programming. Yeah, I believe the borrow checker is being rewritten. That's going to be quite the feat. If they do it, that's great. But nothing you said is logical, but it works. Yeah, Evil Eye. I like that summary. Nothing I said about the way that I'm building this game is logical, but it works. You know, and I did this on purpose. And we're making this multiplayer. That's why I'm doing the refactor. Well, I was doing the refactor today. The refactor is simplifying a lot of this code because I made some poor decisions doing proof of concept. So I want to clean it up, and then we're going to take this C code, and it means that we can take this C code and we can create a 3D renderer instead of rendering it on the browser. It's the same C code as runs on the browser, but we just render it in 3D, or we render it or we run it on a multiplayer server, and we don't have to change the code. So we haven't even scratched the surface of what we're going to do with this game. It's crazy. So there you go. That's what I'm about. Yeah. Thanks. I think Matt said something nice to me too. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, man. I think it's called Polonius. I'm not sure, honestly. You'd know more about it than me, man. Yeah. I do need to look into it because I do want to cover some articles for the Daily Tech News stream about Rust upcoming, but I have so much stuff to cover. I have so much news to cover, and it takes such a long time. I spend hours preparing for those streams, hours per day. It's really difficult, and I get paid nothing. Get paid nothing. You guys are cheap. I'm kidding. You're also essentially a high school dropout. Good, but not good. I don't encourage people to be a high school dropout. It's just that even if you are, like me, you can do a lot with a lot less. You can do a lot more with a lot less. And we need people to get down to fundamentals. Keep calling me man, but I'm a late. I'm sorry about that, 347. Thanks for letting me know, because I just assume, a vast majority of the audience here is usually men. So just default happens. Default stance. Why the late night? It's just because I felt like it tonight. Just it was good. I'm glad I did. I just felt like doing some refactoring, chatting with you all. You're used to it. Yeah, it's just the nature of the internet and stuff, right? Because you guys catch me on the Daily Tech News stream, and I kind of just focus on the articles and I say my spiel, and I don't really engage as much as right now. Yeah, so you guys are easily nerd sniping me. I should be coding right now, because I got to figure out why my battle system is broken when I attack a ship. But instead, I'm talking to you degenerate scumbags. Programming room temperature IQ is a bar. Programming game. I hope it's okay if we just put this on hold, because I'm tired and I would like to go to bed. I would continue with you because I think we made a little bit of ground, and I think if we just hashed it out a bit, we could get to the point that I was trying to make. You might not agree with the point, but we could get to the point where you would understand what I was saying, and then you could be like, I don't agree with you anyways. But I'm tired, man. Do you mind if we chill? Okay. I just don't want you to think I'm running, or I just don't want to engage. I do. I want to keep going. I hope it wasn't combative or anything. No, we could. He's vibe streaming me. Damn it. You can't vibe stream me. Okay? You can't vibe stream me. How dare you? Oh, look, this is what you get. You don't vibe stream me, all right? I'm the streamer now. I'm the quitter now. Send your code from TAIQ chat. Son of a bitch. You don't approve of this meme? It's too bad, Lem. If only it was your stream, then you might be able to say something. But alas, it's mine, and therefore, shut it. Burn the claw tokens. Okay, that's it. That's it for content. All right, guys, I'm out of here. It's late. It's almost midnight. I'm gonna get some sleep. $10 tip makes him remove that meme. That's good grifting, TMX. That's good grifting. Thanks for the follow-up programming game. I appreciate it, man. Come back again, and we'll talk more. Is this the chat that I have garnered? Thanks, Bahiri. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate that too, man. Yeah, seriously, if you the only thing I ask, I don't ask for the money, but if you guys would do one thing, if you like the message I'm trying to spread here, and you like generally agree with like what I'm trying to get to, and I'm trying to, the minds I'm trying to persuade, including consumers who are not programmers like us. I do that on the Daily Tech News stream. I try and I try and convert technical stuff into consumer stuff so they can vote with their dollars. Do the like, do the subscribe, do the follow. That stuff helps to get me in front of more eyeballs like tonight. And that means that I can hopefully persuade more people that we need to be doing better. Even if they disagree with how I get there, at least having the conversation is important. And having consumers, executives, managers, programmers aware of the problems and aware of some of the solutions that we have available to us right now, just generally speaking, I think that's a good thing. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Because I think there's money to be made for everyone. We could all have endless work. And just right now, the tech industry is just being really stupid. And we got to stop that. And it wouldn't take much effort. So help me out with the likes and all that. I appreciate everybody being here. Is this the chat I have garnered? Broke bitches, yeah. Thanks, Evil Eye. Thanks, everybody. Vote with your dollars. We agree. Yeah, vote with your dollars. Yeah, man. Okay. Good night. Stay safe. I don't know if I'm going to be on tomorrow. It depends on if my wife puts me up to it. But I will definitely be back Monday, one way or the other, either for another Daily Tech News stream or another video game stream at the usual time, around 2 p.m. PST. Come catch me on there. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for the chat today. It was fun. Even though, we disagreed about stuff. It was fun. Catch you later, Spider-Man. Catch you later, Lem. Catch you later, everybody. Good night. I'll do the typical outro, play the music for a second, and then I'll end the stream. Peace out, everyone. You know what? I'm gonna do my usual thing. All of you suck. Every single one of you sucks. I do this at the end of my Daily Tech News streams. You all ask for it, and you're all gonna get it. That's right. You're all gonna get it. Lem, you suck. One Allergen, you suck. Evil Eye, you suck. 347, you suck. I'm a god. Thank you again. Thank you for tipping the $50, man. I appreciate it. That was awesome. Thank you for that super chat. But also, you suck, man. All right, you suck. Programming game, you suck. And because you went against me, you countered me, you suck twice, okay? Streamlabs, you suck. Restream bot, you suck. Let's see, who else was in chat today? I don't think Radical Coder was in, so maybe Radical Coder no, Radical Coder was in. Radical Coder, you suck. TMX, you suck. That's it. I think that's everyone. You all suck. All of you suck. Come back for the next stream. I'll tell you all how much you suck. Peace out, everyone. Have a good night.